Hello and welcome to Celtic Rumours TV, the Bawz and Bovril podcast with your host Mark and myself Paul. Join us tonight on the podcast. We have Terence, Terence161 from our phone page to the podcast, www.celticrumours.co.uk. You can check out all the links to the podcast in the description below. Hit the like button if you like what we're doing here. And also don't forget to hit the notifications so you guys know when we're on. On tonight's show, we'll talk about the latest transfer and kind of rumours around the club. We talk about Yachter's deal to Saudi Arabia. We talk about Saudi Arabia's impact on football as a whole. Expected outgoings and incomes in the club. Players back to pre-season training tomorrow. Tour to Japan and training camp in Europe. SPL fixtures have been released. We'll talk about that. And of course, anything you guys wish to discuss on the show, please let us know. I'll hand off to Mark, but before I do, a big shout out from all of us here at Celtic Rumours TV to Jack, who's celebrating her birthday today. Happy birthday, Jack. Mark?
Oh, that Paul, your mic's a wee bit crackly there.
I'll change the thing there now.
Anyway, evening lads. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much, Paul. That's knocked me off for saying that about that mic here. Some shout outs to some of the lads on the forum, old Tim Alloy, Richie, JFP, a Glasgow Green, wee Kev 83, Mikey, I don't know if Mikey's listening in yet. There, live chat, Bobby, nice to see you again, Bobby, first in as usual, demanding the like button. Brian, evening Brian, nice to see you again, mate. Big Campsy, brilliant Campsy, thanks for joining us, bud. As Paul says, the links to our forum and everything's in the description box below. And I don't know if it's anything to do with through this channel. We seem, but the forum's getting busier and busier with a lot of new names and new faces. Well, it's no faces, but new names and new people. So, anybody, if you're not part of the forum, you're more than welcome to come along. It's just guys just chatting a lot of rubbish about Celtic. So everybody's entitled to get on and get their say. We don't throw people off just because we don't disagree with stuff that they're saying and things like that. Yeah, we're at 689 subs, I think it is. Brilliant. Thanks very much to everybody that subscribes to us. And if you have no, please hit the like button and the subscription button and hit the like button. And if you know how, leave a comment. A big shout out as well to everybody that listens to us on places like Spotify and that, on Celtic News now and that. Really appreciate all the support and just the amount of viewers and listens we're getting to the news. We're really doing well. So thanks to everybody that helps us out with that. Hail, hail.
Just better, Mark, yeah?
Aye, that's a lot better, Paul, aye.
An update on the Yachter deal to Saudi Arabia side, Al Ittihad. Al Ittihad, fucking
Al Ittihad, isn't it?
Al Ittihad, yeah. Will be done in the next couple of days, according to sports journalist Fabrizio Romano. He said earlier today that the deal could hit around £30 million with 25 million up front and 5 million add-ons over 2 years. Yachter has already spoken to fellow Portuguese compatriot Nuno Espirito Santos, and all terms agreed. Celtic are just sorting out the structure of the payment with Ajax, with the Saudi Arabian club. Sorry, we'll speak more about details in this later on the show. Celtic have signed Australian international Holm Tilio for Melbourne City. The 20-year-old signed a 5-year deal with Celtic at an Australian record fee of $2 million. The young winger has come highly regarded and is already looking to get started at the club straight away. Brendan Rodgers also reported to be interested in young boy Swiss international midfielder Fabian Rieder. Rodgers has been linked to this 21-year-old with his former club Leicester, trying to sign him back in 2021 when he broke onto the scene against Manchester United at Old Trafford in the Champions League after scoring a goal for the young boys. Could former Celtic player Thierry Henry make an emotional return to Celtic this summer from Arsenal?
Thierry Henry?
Oh, sorry, Kieran Tierney. I can't even read my own writing, boy.
We've only been on 7 minutes and that's the first belter of the night there, Paul.
Kieran Tierney,
Terry Henry.
This summer, as the former Celtic player has found game time limited since Arsenal appointed Mikel Arteta as manager. And finally, could Celtic look to Man City again for their young talent with the Otters replacement close. Club being closely looked at by Celtic. Celtic have turned their attention to the 19-year Carlos Borges. Yes, in 29 goals, 4 hat-tricks in the Resolve League last season. The young talented winger is tipped to go out on loan this season. And with Celtic's good relationship with the club, could this benefit? I read as well that about this lad Mark from Man City that we actually could go into the buy-in. But I don't think
I've seen that as well. And I was talking to Mikey about him earlier on and that. And well, the fees are talking about like £11 million in that, Paul. But do we want to start getting into taking loan players as well? I'd rather we went and bought them outright as well, to be honest. Even in terms.
Sorry, Mark, sorry.
But Paul,
I didn't hear what the last bit there you said about the loan.
I'd rather we just went in and bought the boy. I mean, let's face it, we've got plenty of money, Paul. We'll probably talk about more. So if they're wanting £11 million for this lad, why not go and buy him outright?
Mm-hmm. Well, the lad, the Swiss international, the fellow Rieder, Mark, is being quoted as 15 million. You know, do you think we actually, we said that when Rodgers came in to Terence, he wants to bring us to the next level. Do you see this as bringing us to the next level, spending this money, getting these quality players in?
But that's the type of players that we do need, but we just need to use it to buy in the quality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you go to sorry.
No, Grant.
That's what I was going to say.
Obviously, good evening, James. Before I start, happy birthday, Jack. But no, to be honest, Paul, I agree with what Mark was saying there as well, and yourself. But like we've said about Champions Leagues last season that we didn't have the quality. Like the team or the squad is very, very strong. Yeah, look, Jota going is a loss, but if you're going to get 25 million or 20 million for him, you know what I mean? You can surely reinvest that. And I think if Rodgers initially has 30 or 35 million is what is apparently coming out, and he gets even 15 million out of 20 million, you're up around the 50 million mark. Like, I mean, I think it's quality rather than quantity that they need. Do you know, we've said they need a few, as you would call it, X factor players that are really going to stand out when it comes to certainly Champions League level. So but 15 million, Paul, in today's money is not 15 million 5 years ago. Do you know, it's not the same. Eventually Celtic have to spend more than 9 million, which was Edward, which was the most they've ever spent. That, like, if they say they're a Champions League team and they want to progress and try and push on in Europe, even in Europa League, you need one or two of these players that are real standout kind of guys. And the Swiss guy, I heard it as well. I think it was 15 or 16 million they're looking for him. If he's that an exciting player, much of an exciting player, then I don't see a reason why they shouldn't go for him. The squad is very strong in nearly all positions. They've already brought in 2 young guys who are supposed to be very, very promising guys and playing regular football. But it'd be great to add 1 or 2, certainly maybe 2 really, really guys that you're paying 15 million for, and giving them a good wage, like Marcus always said. Mm-hmm. You know, I wouldn't like him to. I wouldn't like him to continue to go down getting the 2 million, 3 million, 2 million, 3 million. Do you know, you're not always going to be blessed with getting a Hatate or, do you know what I mean, or Maeda or some of these guys that they've come in like.
Mm-hmm. Just going on, the 16 million rumour is the Swiss lads, Mark, Fabian Rieder from Bawz.
Aye. Evening, David. Thanks very much for coming in again, mate. Nice to see you.
That's that rumour. Like, going on what Terence is saying there, right? And just go back to Bobby's post there. We won't spend anywhere near that, maybe 25, 30 million tops. Terence made a good point there, Mark, that transfers have changed. Do you know what I mean? And we're going to talk about that later on the show as well. Like, but we can continue to get these promising young players, Mark, like the 2 lads we signed, Holm and Tilio from Melbourne City and the Norwegian lad. You know, but if you want quality, Mark, you're going to have to spend it now. Like the market's changed, and it's going to be changing all the time, and Celtic have to spend.
But see, the two players we've signed, Paul, I'd say they're more kind of seen as a project. They're kind of for me, I'm not saying Rodgers isn't they say own them and be rubber stamped or whatever, but for me that's a Mark Lowell kind of. They're Mark Lowell signings. Celtic's found do you know what I mean? That's all part of like Celtic rather than like anything to do with Rodgers as such finding him. And I think they've been brought in as projects, but no, I'm not talking about 2 or 3 year time, but I think, I mean, the Australian boy,
but the
Australian boy, it was meant to be, he was a replacement for Abada, wasn't it? Because Abada was meant to be beginning away. And for the amount of game time Abada was getting, that's fine. The young guy will come in, learn his feet in Scotland, get plenty of game time, but he'll maybe not be a starter every week. And then maybe next season you'll see him becoming a more regular player. So I don't mind them buying these players to strengthen the squad. Do you know what I mean? Because the squad, when you break it down, if we can get rid of the deadwood and that and replace them with these type of younger players like these guys were signing. But when it comes to the actual major signings, I totally agree. We need to take it to the next level. And it's players that are going to come in, hit the ground running and make a significant difference to the team. We don't need to sign. Aye, just see if you went to spend. See if the Celtic went out and spent. I mean, see if Rodgers has got 50 million, 60 million pound this season, this summer. It doesn't need to go out and spend it all. That's my thinking along it as well. He doesn't need to go out and spend it all this window.
He could adjust the score. He could just bring in 1 or 2, Mark, and maybe 3.
If Celtic went out and bought, even say that boy at 15, 16 million, Paul, right? If they went out and spent that on him, and then we'll talk about these players later on, like they were talking like Tetty, like go and sign him. People were talking about Elyounoussi, he's out of contract. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean you don't need to go out and spend your full transfer budget just because you've got that to spend. So if we can go out and spend, even if it's spending fees on, say, 3 or 4 players, if all we're spending is like maybe 8 million on one, right, and I do think we'll break the record, right, say 12, 15 million maybe on a player, and then the other one 6 million here, 8 I'd be quite happy with that.
Well, I know anyway that if we did sign the Swiss lad Fabian Rieder, Mark, that it would be like people are saying like that. Like, I can't understand why people say like Tilio and Holm wouldn't be Rodgers signings, Mark, because we would have said it to Rodgers and we're signing these players and he would have given the go ahead. Do you know what I mean? You know?
Aye, Rodgers will, I mean, it's the difference in the kind of shift in the axis of power, Paul, is that the manager has got an input on the signings,
exactly.
But the club's still making signings out with the manager's remit. Which is we've spoke about millions of times as part and parcel of being a big club. But Rodgers will be involved in the transfers, especially the players that are going to be coming in and expected to become part of the first team right away. Because
I was reading about him, it was said that the only reason Leicester actually didn't go in for him was financial fair play, and that's in around the time they had to sell all their players, Mark, when they got hit by COVID, and they just didn't have the. He's been on Rodgers' eye for, I think, since he was about 19. You know, so Roger clearly likes him, and you know, speaking of, look, you brought him up, Elyounoussi, he spoke about coming back to Celtic when he was kind of released about Southampton. Terence, would you take a punt on Elyounoussi?
I mean, he was a good player for Celtic at a bad time. I mean, if you're getting him for nothing, he probably is worth a punt. Especially he knows the club, he knows the area, he knows what's expected. You know, I mean, he obviously liked his time back here. If he's willing to come back here, and wants to come back here. I mean, it's an experienced player that, you know, played well for Celtic and has a very good scoring record. I think someone So I saw something about it there today, and he scored a good few goals in
25 goals in 67 games, Terence.
Yeah, and so it's a seriously good return rate. You know what I mean? In a side that was struggling, let's be fair about it. So I mean, listen, Paul, if he's free, he's worth a punt. Like, you know, in my opinion, he's worth a punt. If he's willing to come back and he's happy to come back, I don't see a reason why I wouldn't try him out. Especially the fact that now you've lost obviously Jota. You don't know what the story is with Abada. You know, I mean, I'd certainly be willing to give him a shot.
Mark, your thoughts there on that?
I don't see why no either. I mean, as Turner says, it was a bit of a nightmare of a season when he was here, at the time he was here. But his goals, I thought he was a good player, and he could handle the physical side of the Scottish game.
You know what I think about this as well, Mark? Like, you've been on about, since we started this podcast and since I've been on fucking the Celtic Rumours page, you've been on about our wage structure, right? Like, we're paying no fee for Elyounoussi. You know, we might give him sign on. Like, we could increase our wage structure to make this signing. Like, you know.
It's like I was talking. I mean, it was just an example, and everybody pounced on it. But I'm just using it as an example. Was Dembele? If you can go and sign Dembele without a transfer fee, with a serious signing on fee that you can break up over the length of his contract, why can Celtic no turn around and give him 60 or 70 grand a week? There's no reason whatsoever that they can't do that. And all this, I've said that before, all this nonsense about it rocks the boat with other players. The wages are nothing to do with what other players are getting. I mean, you don't to Man United, go to Liverpool, there are players on there they'll be in 50, 60, 70, 80 grand a difference and things like that. They're not mumping and moaning about that. Players are paid what they're worth. It's not to do with any other player what somebody's getting paid at the club.
Yeah, like, do you think, Terence, maybe within Celtic, I don't know if they have it, like, but I know it's in kind of Premier League clubs, it's like based in category A, B, C, D is within the wage structure. And if you're category A player, the likes of we say Hanlon from Man City, like, would be category A, he'd be on more than categories B and C. Like, you know, do you think Celtic should be looking at something like that?
You have to judge it, Paul, probably on the standard of player, because and you're probably right in what you're saying. Like, Callum McGregor is clearly going to deserves to be on more and should be on more than, say, Anthony Ralston, for example. But at the same time, Celtic need to move with the times as well. It's like the I'm not going off the point, hopefully, but it's like the transfers. Like, if Celtic's cap is 40,000, 40,000 5 years ago is not the equivalent to 40,000 today. You know, so you have to speculate to accumulate. Do you know what I mean? They have to go, okay, look, we're not going to get quality in if we're only going to willing to offer them 35,000 as the max we're going to pay. You have to eventually go, well, do you know what? We are a run-of-the-mill player now will cost 10, a quality player will cost us 10, 12, 15 million, as opposed to 6 or 7 or 8 million. So we might have to go from 35 million to 50 or 35,000 to 50,000 a week. You know, they might need to do it. So to your point, Paul, I would say yes. I mean, if a player comes in and Celtic buy him for 15 million or 13 million or 12 million, he clearly has to be the top earner. Logic would dictate he would have to be the top earner to get him to come to the club. So, like, they have to move with the times. And I would agree with you. If you have a Callum McGregor, and you have, if it's Kyogo's gets a new contract and he maybe moves into that bracket, or Carter Vickers is in that bracket, or possibly maybe even like the likes of a Joe Hart, because where he's come from might be in that category. Yeah, that's perfectly well, and everyone knows their place. And the thing is, if you perform at the level, and all of a sudden you're in category B, whatever, and then you perform and you're an outstanding player, all of a sudden you step up into category A, where you get a new contract and you get a higher wage. You know, like, just part and parcel. So, but I do think what you're saying is bang on, Paul. But I also do think that Celtic need to look at their wage structure, because that needs to also change now with the way the times are. Because, as I said, you can't keep saying to a fella, we only pay 35,000 or 40,000 or whatever it is. You're going to struggle to get a guy, even if he is you're willing, even if you are willing to pay the 15 million for him, but you're only willing to pay him 35,000, he's probably not going to come.
Aye. And that's what I mean. For many times have you heard me saying that transfer fees don't make much of a difference to me. It's the wages you're paying the players. Transfer fees are just basically transfer fees is just see these days it's clubs just trying to balance their fair play and their finances. Take Leicester for example, right? They've got players, right? I don't know, a lot of the teams that expect to be in relegation scraps down in England just to the clauses in the contract that if you get relegated, your wages get half right away. I don't know if that's still a thing.
Oh, yeah, it is, yeah. But
I don't know, would Leicester have had that? Would Leicester expecting to get relegated? Would Southampton expecting that?
I don't know, yeah. I think Southampton would have had it as well, Mark. I think Southampton might have had it because they're always kind of in around the bottom, and they were kind of scraped it out kind of season after season, but I wouldn't think Leicester had it
Aye, but it's right, I'm going to one player that we've all been speaking about a bit. For Leicester's that big in Didi, right? I mean, that would be an absolute quality signing, absolutely quality. Me and Bobby had a bit of a debate about his wages and that, but again, Leicester will be just wanting him off the books. Do you get what I mean? They'll just be like, we need to get his wages off the books, and I don't see how they'll be looking for crazy money. They're just trying to balance the books, so they take players just to get them out the club and stop having to pay them the crazy wages that we're paying them in the Premier League. And Mark Lowell's no stupid. I mean, I'm just sitting here as if we know more than these guys that are running clubs. Mark Lowell will know all these kind of dodges and looking what he's looking at and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So, but the wages, there's bargains out there. The transfer fees to me don't matter. They really don't. But it's the actual wages. It's been a problem at Celtic for years. For the wage bill we've got, I mean, we've got the biggest wage bill in Scotland now. What is it? Is it still about 59 million, 56 million? And come on, surely we could spend that better than we're spending it.
But as well too, Mark, I think it could be spent better is, for me, if you mightn't be a popular choice, but if you, in a sense, culled the squad, if you reduce the squad,
aye.
You've got like, for argument's sake, I'm just naming names here, but you've McCarthy, you've Welsh, you've Iraguchi, you know, there's just three players straight away that I can think of, and there's numerous other players that are taking a wage that you could go, even if it's for argument's sake, you've got a
Yeti and everything there in that list.
A Yeti, Sorrow, Shaw, Iragini, all these guys, even if they're taking $5,000 a week, and I know some of them probably could be more than that, but if it's $5,000 a week and it's 6 guys, there's $30,000. Like, do you know what? It's $30,000, and then none of those guys would be realistically, maybe Stephen Welsh, but none of the rest of them would realistically be involved in the squads, in the teams, in the setups. So, like, do you really need, especially, do you really need such a surplus of extra players for the sake of, like, if you got 30,000, you're able to offer that on top of an initial 40,000, all of a sudden there's 60,000 you can give someone. Do you know?
How much is Celtic paying to goalkeepers?
There's five or six keepers there, like. Do you know what I mean? 5 or 6 keepers, like. Yes, Mark, if they're all on 5,000 a week, if you've got 5 keepers and they're on 5,000 a week, there's 25,000 a week just for keepers, and they're likely to be on more. Like, Joe Hart's likely to be on more than $5,000 a week.
Barquez was on.
Evening, Martin. Hold on, Paul. Evening, Martin. Yep. Thanks very much for coming in again, mate. See, just on that, I know it takes a while to get up, but we're not talking about filling the full team over the next couple of windies with that kind of level of player, Martin. But 1 or 2 this window, and then maybe 1 in the winter, and just gradually bring in the better quality player that paying higher wages does. No, I mean, just start right away and end up, do you know what I mean, fully back up to the gunnels with the wage bill.
But I was just going, Paul, sorry. No, I was just going to say, go on, Paul.
I think, Mark, when we looked at Barquez, that time with the wage talks, Mark, he was on around 15, 16 grand. Is when he was on top orders. So I said Joe Hart would be in and around the same there, Terence, 15, 16 grand, I say.
Oh, easy, Paul, and that's my point. You know what I mean? But just to go back to that gentleman's point there a minute ago that Mark was saying, I reiterate what you're saying, Mark. No one's saying to be getting a load of £15 million players in because Celtic can't afford it. But I saw on the forum the other day where someone was talking. I think it might have been the lad, the face painter, and he put up. I agreed with him. People were saying you shouldn't be spending all the money on big money players. It doesn't necessarily guarantee it. I would disagree, and I agreed with him, but I disagreed with some of the other comments because you look at Carter Vickers was 6.5 million. You look at Jota, he was 6.5 million. You look at Edward, who was 9 million. Do you know? Then you can go back and you can look at Bangora, who was 2 million. The centre forward, I forget his name, Sebchenko or something like that, was about 2 million. Do you know? You can look at all the 2 million boys. Pookie. Do you know? If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
Aye. I've said that for years as well, Terry. See if you go and buy all these guys we gambled on, your Banguras, your Baldies, no big Bobo, that Baldi.
I know the other fellow, yeah.
Pookie, guys like that. Even Borregar. I mean, that Borregar was one of your top earners, and what did they play? About 3 games, if you're lucky. I mean, the Dutch guy out in the wing.
Yeah.
But see, instead of spending 2 million on 3 or 4, like, just gambles, basically it's a gamble. Why no go and pay the 5 or 6 million for a player and give them the 3 or 4 players' wages?
Because they're 100%.
You say, Terence, you're going to get a better calibre of player.
Better chance anyway.
Better value for your money.
Well,
a better chance anyway.
We've been speaking about Ghent a lot on the podcast about what they did. This is what they did, what you were saying. They bought in these 1 or 2 players extra wage when they qualified for the Champions League. And then they got the money. They bought in another extra 1 or 2 players on the big wage. And that's how they built their structure within the Champions League. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right, Paul. You're right. We can't, for argument's sake, come to the Champions League when it's over next, we're in it, and if we get hockeyed again, and everyone's like, well, we haven't got the quality, we're not good enough at this level, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but that's the reason why you're saying, get a standout midfielder or standout forward or this time, and then the next time get a standout centre back, and then the next time get a standout winger or a centre forward. I'm not suggesting it's going to go and spend 50 million or 60 million in 3 or 4 places.
Try and become a PSG or Galacticos or that and spend millions.
Brian is saying if Jota wasn't being sold for megabucks, would we be talking about paying 40, 50,000 in wages for several players? Think we need to be realistic.
But it's realistic when we're sitting with millions in the bank. We're bringing in millions for transfers. We've got Champions League football. We've got sponsorship money coming out every orifice of our bodies. The club's not going to move forward and become a European force of any kind, even getting some kind of dignity back in Europe if you're just plodding along paying guys 25 grand a week, 30 grand a week. It's just not going to happen.
Look, Paul, when you see the Championship and they're paying a guy 100 grand a week,
aye.
Then if people want Celtic just to pay 25 or 30 grand a week, fine, no problem with it. But don't be giving out about when they get absolutely hosed in the Champions League or get absolutely hosed in the Europa League, because you're not going to get the quality in you require for 25 grand a week. I keep saying it. 25 grand a week 5 years ago is not 25 grand a week today. It's just not. You can look at. I know the Premiership in England and the Championship in England may not necessarily the best way to look at, but look at like the guy from Leipzig who's gone to Liverpool for 60 million or something. That he was with Celtic last year. There's a reason that there's better players with better teams. They pay better wages. That's what it is. It's not necessarily massive fees. It's wages. It's wages that are the key. That's what gets the player in the door.
Martin saying if we're going to pay big wages, then it just fills 50% of the team and fans have to allow for bad days. I know what you mean by that, Martin. I'm a great believer in that. There'll be bad days when you're trying to bleed youth into the team. But again, I don't see why that would be the case at Celtic. I mean, we're not talking about going out and paying guys, like buying 3 players this summer that are on 100 grand a week, and then in the winter buying another one that's an 80 grand a week and stuff like that. We're talking about a gradual progress and investing in the team and realising that, but Terence says, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. I keep saying, apart from the transfer fee, the wages is far more important to a player. As we're seeing with Jota, basically. That's it. Jota's a perfect example. And when we started this podcast, Paul, I don't know if you mind, I used to go on about Hulk that went to China a few years back for crazy money, and a few other people, even Aaron Moy went out to China for some crazy money. So you get what you pay for with wages. The transfer fees is between the club, but the wages will attract you the better players. And Celtic are just they're not going to get to the level that we want them to be at, we expect them to be at, and even the way that we've said it before, Lille used to come out with we're a Champions League club, but we weren't, because we never acted like one. If we want to be a Champions League club, we need to act like one, and that means having players that are a bit, can do a difference, something different for you, a bit special, and the only thing that gets that is paying the money.
Speaking of Jota, his deal is expected to be done as early as next week. Fabrizio Romano came out today, said the deal could be worth 25 million with 5 million add-ons within to be paid within 2 years. As Brian said there, it's mega bucks for Celtic market. No one expect a deal like this for any Celtic player to come in. 25 million. Celtic just can't turn down kind of big money like this, Mark, for a player.
No, I've got no qualms about it, really. You can't even blame Jota. You can't. I mean, people are he's just getting out there for the money, and can you blame the guy? I mean, imagine going to the bank every Friday and you've got another 200 grand in the bank. Every 7 days you're getting 200 grand in the bank. I mean, think about it. And getting out to Saudi Arabia. Think of the house that he'll get. The amount it'll be. There's a fleet of Lamborghinis and Porsches in the driveway to use as you want and stuff like that.
Tax free.
All tax free. And as I said, Celtic's just a case of, well, whoever, if you give us enough money, all our players are for sale. That's basically it.
Do you know what? Do you know what's good about this deal is that Celtic, like, we see all kind of the big names going their turns, the Benzemans, Kante, fucking there's lads from Borello from Italy's going there now, from AC Milan. Like, we see these big name players going there. But Celtic have players that they see as talented young lads that they want to bring in, the likes of Jota. That shows as well that Celtic scouting system is working at the moment.
Oh yeah, it does, and I'd agree with you there, Paul, and I'd agree with what Mark said as well. Because for argument's sake, if Jota played it next season with Celtic and this hadn't come in, and he played well in the Champions League, and an offer of 25 million came in from somewhere in Europe, we'd all be over the moon about it. Yeah, it was a bit of a shock him going. Not necessarily it's a bit of a shock where he's going, and the whole lot. It's understandable if you're going to get 200,000 a week, whatever it is, tax free in your hand. It's hard to say no to, but yeah, and that is great, Paul, that the powers to be are identifying those individuals and being able to bring them in for 6.5 million, and all of a sudden they could be going for 20, 25, 30 million, whatever it is. It's like, fair play to the guys, the scouting department in Celtic for identifying him early enough that they were able to tie him down, you know.
Like, people are saying, Mark, and like that. You said there, like, it's about money and he's ruining his career. I don't think he is, because the coach is Portuguese there, Mark. The Espírito Santos that was with Wolves, and I think that because it's the Portuguese connection as well, Mark. I still think he's going to get called up to that Portuguese squad.
No chance, Paul. No. I think any player going out to Saudi Arabia is kind of kissing their international career goodbye. I mean, Portugal. I mean, let's face it. Portugal are getting into tournaments, Paul, expecting to get to the latter stages, and as long as it's not the World Cup, they don't come up against Brazil or Argentina, they quite fancy their chances of winning it. A Euros, do you know what I mean? So Jota's not going to. I can't see Jota getting a call up to any international squad anytime soon.
Is this move so hindering his own career, like, such a young age? You know,
I think in a kind of football sense, Paul, it does kind of hinder his career. I really do, because it's. I mean, I was talking to Mikey about it. Mikey knows his knowledge on all the leagues and stuff like that. And Mikey says that the standard of the league is actually worse than Scottish football.
Mm.
In general, there's good players, there's cracking players. We saw, Saudi Arabia beat Argentina in the World Cup last year. Do you know what I mean? So they're no, but just in general, it's a kind of, even if probably like fitness levels and that, you're going to be up to kind of the scratchy international football after being swanning about in Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
think getting along financial fair play in Denmark.
Because it doesn't, there's nothing to do with it, Paul.
No,
me and Terence were talking about this the other day, weren't we, Terence?
We were asking you about it, yeah.
Aye, Terence asked me that, Paul, and I asked, because then it got me thinking, so I asked Ed too about it, and it was actually, I think it was Ed one that maybe get back to you about, and he says, that's a UEFA thing. They're not playing any of the other, like the Australian one and all that, they're the South African, there's no financial fair play in any of these kind of leagues or confederations or that.
Yeah. Wow. I was surprised as well, Paul, when he told me that as well, like, because it didn't make sense when they were able to play in a World Cup and supposed to be level, in a sense, a level playing field, but at the same time, say for argument's sake, Ronaldo can go and get what he goes. I heard the Messi one in America, he's getting gate receipts and from the opposition teams, and he's getting just sales and jerseys and mad stuff.
He's in a franchise.
Yeah.
Every team. Nice to see you, mate. Thanks for joining us.
They were saying every team in the MLS has to give him a cut of their gate when Miami, whatever he's called, New York, Miami, whatever they're called, are playing them. Messi gets a cut of the gate, all this kind of stuff. But anyway, sorry, it's off the beaten track. But yeah, I don't understand it either, Paul. It doesn't strike me as very fair, because you've basically got people who've got it basically empty pockets and can basically, so there's no player in the world that isn't basically within their reach, like. That's basically none short of it, like.
I was reading a thing today, and it was talking about just obviously this Saudi Arabian thing's a kind of hot topic, especially in Scotland, with Jota going there. But I've read a thing today, and it's like, is it the PIF or something? It's called them that bought Newcastle, and they that LIV golfing thing, Terence.
Yeah, yeah.
They've bought the top 4 clubs there in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Right.
They've done it in the golf. Like.
Aye, but that's not what I was thinking about earlier on. See, like maybe, I don't know, in 2 years' time, is Jota going to end up at Newcastle for £250 million to kind of balance all the Newcastle's books and stuff? Do you get all this kind of sports washing stuff? Because it seems to be that these big 4 teams there in Saudi Arabia are all owned by the same people that own Newcastle and that golfing mob, Terence.
The money they gave in the golf is phenomenal. It's unbelievable. There's I know it's slightly off the football talk.
That the crowd that own Newcastle, sorry, Terence, is it? Yeah, they've owned all the LV golf and stuff, is it?
They're probably connected, but
aye.
Jesus, never do it, but never know.
Yeah, they live golf. Yeah, they weren't ever apparently going merging with the PGA of America and the DP European Tour, and literally overnight it changed, and apparently the figure was allegedly something like 20 billion.
Jesus Christ.
That they've given the towards the tour. You have to remember, this is the crowd, Paul, that was given allegedly offering players like Mickelson 200 million to sign for them, Tiger Woods $1 billion to sign for them. Do you know, it's absolutely astronomical money that you just can't compete with. Like,
Mikey was telling me yesterday, we were talking about that, Terence, that the players that stayed with the PGA, like Rory McIlroy and that, they're all kicking up and wanting the money. Like them that jumped ship, they've made all these millions, that knew the PGA guys that stuck with the PGA are wanting a kind of share of the money due them for sticking with the PGA. Mikey was saying something about that, Taze.
Yeah,
would you blame them?
They were saying any player that had been offered to join Live Tour at the time, if for argument's sake, Paul was on the PGA Tour and he was offered 100 million to join him, and he said no. They were saying any player that was offered, not every player, if you were only offered to join them, that you should be reimbursed But McIlroy said he was never asked. But he was kind of a spokesman. He said that, but any player that had been asked to join the Deep or the Live Tour, if they had refused to stay with the PGA Tour, should be compensated for the fact that now they basically the tours have merged together. Because Mark's gone to Live Tour and got 80 million. Paul decided not to go and got nothing. And then 12 months later, less than 12 months later, Mark is coming on to the PGA Tour again, and after getting 80 million, and Paul could have got the 80 million. That's what the argument is about.
You can see that point with that, really.
100%, 100%. They have to be compensated. Any player that was approached like that.
Mm-hmm. Back to Celtic.
Just we'll finish off with the Saudi stuff in that.
I just want to say, I'm like Benfica have is it a 30% clause, Mark? I think they have. So
it seems to be that's what's been reported.
So they'll get 30, but I believe Celtic will also have a 10% clause, Mark, in any sell-on in the Yachta deal as well. So like it's great.
So when he goes to Newcastle for £250 million, you'll be well quids in.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? You know, it's great business by Celtic, like, but. What's this doing for football? This Saudi Arabia stuff. The Premier League have been kicking up about it, saying that all their best players have been leaving the Premier League, and I think
they've done it themselves.
They started this trend. You know,
suck it up. Do you know what I mean? They've done it. It's even to a lesser extent. Let's not kid ourselves. We've done it with teams in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the nature of the beast of football. I mean, they were talking about China earlier, just that a few years back, that was the place to go for serious money. Paul, I don't know if you're old enough, Paul, but it was Italy. You went to Italy to get serious money if you wanted to play. Do you know what I mean? In England, just...
Yeah, the likes of David Platt that time, Mark, and Gaza and all them. That's why he went to Woodhullis and all them.
There's certain leagues have their time, and it's just because of actual television, the way it's the way society just came. Sky kind of helped that way, football, but it's just the way society's came that football and Sky, the Premier League, hit at the right time, and they've milked it to death. They've made millions, billions, whatever you want to see, and they didn't care because they were top of the tree. The Super League was at the rest of Europe kicking back and trying to see, here, this can't get going. But now England's feeling the way we felt when they came and stole. Even going back to Kenny Dalglish and players like that phase, Brian McLaren, players like that, for years, going back 40, 50 years, they've stole players from Scotland for pennies. They've done it, and they've been over Europe and ransacked it over the last 20 years for the best players. Because let's not be kidding, you could count the amount of world-class players England alone has produced on maybe your two hands in the last 30 years. The actual good players and the quality players, the majority, the 99% of them doing that Premier League, if it started, has all been foreigners. Mm-hmm. So if the foreigners are only coming to England because of the money, and that's helped build up the prestige, if the money's somewhere else, they're going to go where the money is.
Mm.
That's really hit for me.
Speaking of the Super League, Mark, with the millions in Saudi Arabia, you know, like, if they get involved in some kind of Super League or something like that, like it's bound to happen, I say, with the amount of money they have now.
The next thing will be, Paul, that will be Saudi Arabia will be included in UEFA tournaments or something like that. That's what will end up happening.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's the money. The money will say them. I don't know if that's maybe like the kind of long-term aim. These guys here in Saudi Arabia, they know this. I mean, I spoke about this last week, Paul said football at that level is just going to become playthings for these big billionaire Saudi princes and oil sheiks and people like that. But if it's going to sustain, and that is the thing, is it going to sustain or is it going to fall away like the Chinese league or even back in the 70s when America tried to date and stuff like that? Is it going to fall by the wayside?
It all depends if the Saudis people themselves get involved in the football. You know what I mean? It's grand bringing in all these players, but are the fans going to go out and watch it? That's the big thing here that needs to happen. You know, if it's going to be maintained in the country, are the fans going to get behind it? Are they going to stop buying jerseys? Are they going to get behind football? You know, I think that's the the next thing to be watching in Saudi Arabia. You know what I mean? Are we going to see Saudi Arabian football mark on TV? You know?
Well, they're just, see them that Yota's went to.
Mm-hmm.
They've got an average attendance of 40,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Don't get us wrong, the next one doing 17,000, then it's 12, 10.
But the more quality comes in though.
But the lowest one's 3,467.
You could argue that point about Scotland.
Apart from Celtic Rangers, that's a good attendance in Scotland terms. That's what I was just going to say.
But
And
more quality you get.
And it's not even doing. It's just, if the more players that get into these weird teams, the more people that will get in. The more fans that will get in. But I mean, that's a good basis. Do you know what I mean? Considering they're not caring about financial fair play. They've got billions. Paul, these guys, if these guys want to, Paul, they can bankroll this for 10, 20 years without batting an eyelid. Do you know what I mean? They don't need good crowds. They don't need to. They don't need to show to UEFA or FIFA that, oh, we're only spending money we make, we're only doing this. They can just spend, as long as they're willing to spend. It's a bit like Rangers, without the regulations covering them. If they've got people willing to put the money in, that's what will happen. They'll just keep pummeling it in and pummeling it in.
Look at Man City.
Aye.
Man City's a prime example. There was no one kicking up a stink about it in the Premier League. Like that guy came in and basically put a billion in around with the club and the stadium and buying players that 10 years previous Man City had no hope of even thinking of dreaming of affording. No one had to worry about that now or now when it was the Premier League, but because someone abroad is doing it and can basically outmuscle them financially, they think it's wrong and there's an issue. But I mean, do you know what I mean? They've got to get a taste of their own medicine now, unfortunately.
It's great to see, isn't it?
Oh yeah, but the more quality players that they do buy and bring to Saudi Arabia, Paul, you'd imagine naturally enough the attendance will go up and go up. Like every sport, when teams are winning, all of a sudden you get more and more and more and more people wanting to go watch them. Like I'm sure Mark would probably confirm this, but Celtic in the late maybe 80s and early 90s. You could walk into the ground because it was a time where unfortunately Rangers were winning everything and Celtic weren't winning that much, you know, and so you could probably go to the ground most times. You
can only go back to when Ronnie was here telling me to shut the tap tiers.
Oh yeah, 100%. You know, so teams follow winning teams, like people follow winning teams.
Next we'll be doing a podcast in Burkas. The fucking Saudi Arabia flag behind us, and people think we're a terrorist podcast or something like that. Recruiting. Jesus Christ, my translation is coming up and down the end of the podcast. You know, I don't know. I fucking like for teams like Celtic, Mark. Like I know we're getting money here, but. Is all this billions killing the game as we know it? You know?
No, but I suppose it is to an extent, but it's a kind of slow death. But again, Paul, if these guys, his pockets change to them, Paul, that's, I mean, it's hard to, you can't imagine having that kind of wealth, Paul. Do you know what I mean? You really can't get normal guys like us. You can't imagine how rich all these Arab guys and that are. And as long as there's people out there willing to bankroll it, they're going to keep doing it. And I mean, if it does keep going the way it's going, it is going to become a big challenge to the Premier League. And that could have shockwaves across the full like the European game as such. Do you know what I mean? Because that was, if I'm not saying Sky's going to pull out of the Premier League or anything like that, but if the product's not as good, the money's not going to be as good as we see in Scotland. Do you know what I mean? If suddenly Man City's replacing Kevin De Bruyne with some wee player for Charlton, or do you know what I mean? Something like that. The quality in the league and the the interest in it's going to slope away. And you've got to remember as well, Paul, a lot of these younger supporters they've not really got teams. Do you get what I mean?
Got players.
Aye, they're full of players about and stuff like that, and that's a big thing maybe going forward as well.
Yeah, because you made a good point there. Because a fella who walks me, he's 2 young boys, like they're twins, both 6, Mark, but they love football. They don't follow no team. They love the players. You know, they love Salah for Man City, Kevin De Bruyne. They have fucking it's Fernandes then for Man United. They like, do you know what I mean? It's not the team, it's the players.
Aye.
You know,
It's
and
like
that's
the brand of the player.
Yeah. You know, it's more of the player now than the club. Like that's actually a good point you make there, Mark. In fairness, you know.
But would you think over time, if this, for argument's sake, continued and looked to be going in a certain trend, you wouldn't be very surprised to see the Premier Leagues behind the door, so to speak, basically their powers to be contacting the likes of UEFA or FIFA and going, this can't happen. This is going to destroy Europe.
They've actually the Premier League have actually went to the UK government and tried to put an embargo on transfers going to Saudi Arabia, and the UK government said they can't.
Well, that would be like employment discrimination or something. I'm sure there'd be something like that. But I'm not surprised that they don't try and push through a fair play thing over there to say, well, if we have it here, they should have it over there. They shouldn't be allowed to spend billions upon billions, and for argument's sake, we get basically slap in the wrist, or a transfer period is stopped from us because we can only spend X, Y, and Z. I don't know. I would be surprised if they didn't have something like that in the pipeline, because I can't imagine they're going to want to lose all the good players in the Premier League.
The Premier League, they'll be spitting feathers out of this.
Oh yeah, they'll be pulling.
I mean, it's like even get down to the likes of, say, like Messi. I think Man City thought they were signing Messi. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, didn't go to Saudis, went to America, but it's the same kind of thing. It's because I think in maybe the next 10 years, I think the US, I think that's going to kick right on football-wise. Soccer as they call it. I think that's going to really
I think
kick
that's
on.
going to be the next trend, Mark, will be the US.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Paul. I think, aye. And I mean, their national team, they're a great national team. I mean, the other players play at top clubs. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a matter of time that before I think the actual look at the population of America. Do you know what I mean? If football can get a right proper foothold there, just with the population, with the low averages, they're going to have cracking players and right strong teams.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I say in the next 10, 20 years, Mark, we're not going to know football the way we know it as we grow up. Like, you see a child now, it's going to be all different.
No, I've seen that time. It'll be, what was that cartoon? It used to, was it the Hurricanes? The team was called Terence Mind.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the World Football League thing that they all played in. Do you mind the cartoon on the telly when we were younger?
Yeah.
I see like that. I mean, they're like we're going on about this kind of Super League. It's always in the background. What about in like 10, 15 year time? It's like it is a world league. It's
but
like
it
Europe,
is
Saudi Arabia, America. Do you know what I mean?
But that's going to happen though, because he was, what's his name? Infant. What's the FIFA president? Infantino or something like that, isn't it?
Aye.
That's the next step for the thing is a World Cup team, a team's World Cup, so this is his kind of way, Mark, of kind of doing maybe a Super League,
Aye, it might be.
Might be where people true.
We're saying the Premier League will be spitting feathers about this Saudi stuff and that, but I mean UEFA will be doing the same. Yeah. But simply because, their brand's the best brand. Into the Champions League's the be all and end all of the football kind of thing, apart from your World Cups and that. And again, more and more players will be going out to Saudi for the crazy money that they're putting out.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell me that Kante was that's the stage of his career. That was his best footballing option.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Even Benzema, come on. I mean, I know he's a bit old and long in the tooth. The guy's he's the current holder of the Ballon d'Or. And he's a winner there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So he'd be still at Madrid if it wasn't for that, like.
Aye, probably Terence, or even maybe PSG.
But he'd be one of the top clubs anyway.
Aye. But just probably the money's been out there. And again, it's the prestige is. I mean, he's getting 97 million a year or 87 million a year. It's absolute crazy money, but that's worth it to them because that's building up the brand of their league. Or we've got Benzema, we've got this, we've got this. You know what I mean? The Ballon d'Or winners are here playing. It builds up the brand and the worldwide attraction to that league.
But for them to give Jota 200,000 a week is like giving him $5,000 over here. You know, that's what it's probably like to them. Giving him 200,000 is probably like giving him €5 or €6,000 in Scotland. They have so much money. A 200,000 euro or £200 a week wage is nothing to them. Like nothing to them.
Brian is saying that the Scottish FA will be raging that Celtic got this mega box. Don't think. Can they, Mark? Do you think that's a fair point by Brian there that the Scottish FA will be raging Celtic got this money?
Probably, Paul. Most of them are Rangers supporters anyway, isn't it? So, like the rest of the Rangers supporters will be raging at that.
But can I ask you a question? Do you think now that this is, apart from where obviously Jota's gone, but do you think this now all of a sudden changes Celtic's transfer policy, so to speak, i.e. on if a player has been looked at? If they now value Jota at 25 million for argument's sake, that clearly means Kyogo is at 25 million. For again, and whatever player on the pitch, all of a sudden, if they thought he was worth 8 million, is he now worth 15 million because of this transfer?
Well, that is one way you're looking at it. I mean, again, you've got to kind of look at your opposition. Your opposition.
The people willing to
the people you're selling to Terence, you know what I mean? It's like, well, I know we're going about the money down in the public, but let's be honest, could Bournemouth have afforded £30 million for Jota?
No, I wouldn't think so.
Do you know what I mean, sir?
But what I'm saying is, if Celtic sold Kyogo for 15 million, sold Jota for 25 million, how are they only selling Kyogo for 15 million? Is what I'm saying. That makes any sense.
Did you know you cut off your Terence? What did you say? What you cut out mid-sentence here, Terence?
Oh, sorry. I was saying if, for argument's sake, Kyogo was sold for 15 million, everyone would be going, why are we selling Kyogo for 15 million? We sold Jota for 25.
Aye.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Does it all of a sudden, does the wheel turn and go?
Is that the benchmark,
Is that the benchmark?
I know what you mean, aye.
Well, I think
what's happening with Hatate? Is he going or what?
There's talks about him going there now as well, Mark.
Aye. So what would you expect to get for Hatate?
The same.
Or more.
Aye.
I'd be looking at 30.
If he's going there, Mark, right? If he's going there, right? If he does go there, Hatate, if he does go there, Celtic should be making out the two transfers about 60 million, 65 million out of those two transfers.
Aye, and if they want to,
I think
we'll take up to about pushing the 100 million mark.
Yeah, I think, Terence, with your point there, that this Jota deal gives Celtic more power on the negotiation table, Mark. That we're not letting players go for fucking pittance anymore, and not just Celtic, Mark. No, the rest of the SPL, likes of Aberdeen, Hearts. And
I just kind of stink their heels in our transfer fees, and it's about time.
Yeah,
but as well, you've got to think as well, Paul. We use like one of your selling points to players is come in, develop, and get your big move done. Usually it's the pub league. Do you know what I mean? But now there's this other avenue. See if we sell. See if Jota's away, but see if we sell Hatate and even Kyogo are there. just think you turn around to a player. This you've got a part. Look at the players we've sold down to England, to big teams or even mid teams, but they've ended up at the big teams. Look what we've done there. Look at the players that are in Saudi Arabia getting crazy ass money and stuff like that, which is another selling point for Celtic to get players in that we can develop. Evening, Joseph. Nice to see you again, mate. Thanks for coming in, bud.
For the 2 players, Mark, being sold to Saudi Arabia that were off our heads. If Hatate went to Saudi Arabia as well.
What?
He's saying 50 mil for the 2 players. Yasa and Hatate to Saudi Arabia, 50 mil for the 2 players were off our heads.
No.
You know?
Oi.
How can we be off our heads when we're getting 30 million for Jota? You say it alone?
Mm-hmm.
But Paul, I would say, like, fair enough, but if we said that the 2 players went to the Premier League for 30 million each, would that not be the same thing? Like,
yeah, you'd be happy with that, wouldn't you? We actually would be delighted, Mark. If we got
you'd be over the moon.
But see, is that what people are? I said
think
this
it's
to
Saudi,
Mike.
Mark.
Is that what people's bothering about?
I think it is, yeah.
Because he's got, but see if that's where he wants to go and Celtic are getting the money they want, or even more money than they probably maybe thought they were going to get. Who cares? Really, who cares where they go to as long as we're getting the money back in for them?
Like
It's their choice.
If we went to sell, take Saudi Arabia out of Hatate deal, right? What would you expect to sell him to the Premier League anyway?
Hatate?
15? Yeah. 15 at least?
No chance, Paul. I'd have been looking for Hatate. I'd be looking at like KT money. I mean, look, it's Terence.
Outside of this Yasser deal, Mark, even if this Yasser deal didn't happen.
Aye, nothing to do with that.
He's at least 20.
Even it's like Terence said earlier on, 10 grand 5 years ago is no 10 grand today. So when did KT leave? 2019 was it? 4 years ago. We get 25 million for him. So 4 years, 25 million. The news no 25 million then. So I'd be looking for 25 million at least for Hatate if he was going to England. Really, I mean, I'm not saying for a minute he's the finished article, but he'll go down to England to become a finished article and get sold for 70, 80 million in maybe 2 years' time. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Any other players do you think there seems to be kind of doubts around Kyogo at the moment there, that he was on kind of international duty there, and he kind of
Humped Hod, and he answered without giving an answer, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a bit strange the way he answered. Mark's in. He's going to rest and think things over after he's rested and see where things go. But I believe Celtic and Rodgers are kind of going to sit down with him during the pre-season and stuff like that. You know, it was a strange one, Mark, wasn't this?
It was I honestly don't think Kyogo will be here, Paul, by the time the season starts. I really don't. And for 2 reasons, I think there'll be a kind of head turning offer for him as well. And I've said it before. I just don't see him as a Rodgers type of player.
I think as well.
If it's going to be a lone striker, I just don't see Kyogo being Rodgers kind of taste in that department. I really don't. I
think as well, Mark, that with his age, 28, he'd be going on 29 kind of during the year. This is his last shot at Premier League football that he wants as well. You know? Aye. You know, and I read something as well that I don't know if there's any truth to Mark or anything like that, that if a team kind of a top European team kind of came in for him, that there's a clause in his contract for that, you know.
What's the definition of Paul?
That's what I was going to say there. That's how I doubt. See, when you read these kind of things, Paul, what's the definition of a top European team?
I don't know. Is it in between the top clubs, the leagues? You know, I don't think Kyogo will go to the Premier League. I think he'll go to the Bundesliga because his agent is based in the Bundesliga. You know, I think he could go to Germany
for the right money, Paul. For the right money. Like, I mean, to be fair, like, no different than JJ, no different than Giacomakis or the way bad is at the minute. I understand that's game time.
The German team then paying out big money for Kyogo.
But then he doesn't go.
Yeah,
then he doesn't go.
Doesn't seem to be their structure, Mark, does it? Within the German league, you know, they kind of don't pay out big money for players, you know. Unless you're really Bayern Munich or Borussia Dortmund, really.
I mean, we're talking about what would you take? What's acceptable for Kyogo? Yoda, shut up.
Mark, he's our first striker, Mark, since Chris Cummins, Mark, to hit over 30 goals, you know.
No, I'm talking about money-wise. How much? Yeah. What kind of value would you put in Kyogo?
20 million? 20 million?
German teams pay.
They won't pay it. They won't pay it. I know that they won't pay it. But again, I'm judging it on what.
One of them spent 15 million on Ollie Burke.
Oh, they did, yeah. But that doesn't say much. Like.
But again, but that's what I'm saying as well, right? It's a case of see if Kyogo's been in, agents got a talk, blah 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 with so and so. It's the same thing. It's like going to England. We want 25 million. Or it's a team here in Germany. You're not going to get that. Or we'll take 15, 18, and see if that's what happens. We'll be raging about it. But that's just the way it is. The way it is. What I said earlier on. Don't bother about transfer fees and that kind of when it comes to it. It's just a figure to help balance books and get rid of players that don't want to be there and stuff like that. I mean, if Kyogo went to a German team for £15 million, would be raging. But maybe that's just what the going rate is for a player like him here in Germany, unless, as you said, Paul, it's Bayern Munich or Dortmund.
Yeah.
Whereas you get down to England and they're spending 20 million on absolute garbage. So we want 20 million. We want 20 million minimum for even half of Bournemouth or fucking any other wee mid-table team. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't see him going to Spurs, really. Like, do you? I really don't. I can't see Ange coming in for him. You know, I really don't. You know, and as you said there, Mark, like, I see more suited to Rodgers.
I said that the other week, and I've said it to the three U's. I even said it to myself a few times, but I even said it to you. I've said it to Mikey. I think I'm really expecting big things for you under Rodgers.
Yeah,
I think
I'm the same. Yeah, with all
big, massive, strong player.
Just continue there for 2 seconds there.
Oh, no bother. I just think, that for me, that's a Brendan Rodgers type of striker, a big, strong guy, and I honestly think that Ozmere suited to him. I've not seen much of Leicester. I'm getting back to his time at Celtic. He's much more suited to a Brendan Rodgers Celtic team through what I've seen.
Oh yeah, I'd agree with you. There, Mark. He does like a bit more the physical style, you know, like the Bele mold style striker up front, even you know. So he could be much more suited to Rodgers style of football than Kyogo. But look, I mean, if any player doesn't want to be there, or it was a Hatate and he was linked to the Middle East, or Kyogo and he was linked to somewhere else, if they don't want to be there,
Brighton
and you get good money.
January, and we want him, you know.
He didn't fancy Brighton. Didn't fancy moving to Brighton. But I'm like you, Terence. I don't care. See, honestly, I don't. No matter who wants to go. See, if they want to go, they can go. Because see, when you look at the recruitment over the last 2 years and that, right? We've listened to Rodgers when he came in, and he's basically telling around about sort of way things are totally different. The way things are run, we know that ourselves. We're not stupid. We saw under Ange that the football department was taking a priority, and there wasn't many wrong decisions getting made with anybody in that. So see, no matter who, see if they don't want to be part of the new Celtic under Rodgers, let them go. As long as we get top dollar for them, let them go. And I'm totally confident between Rodgers and Baby Lil that will be replaced them with probably maybe even better players. I've no qualms whatsoever who wants to leave.
Do you know whose exit market has gone kind of, maybe it's something that's being talked about behind the scenes, but we've heard nothing about a bad eye lately leaving the club. Like, I thought he'd be one of the first names out the door.
But Abada wanted to leave probably, Paul, because he wasn't getting much game time.
Game time, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
See, it's a clean slate. I mean, look, I've said this for kind of half joking. How do we know that James McCarthy's not going to get a look in under Rodgers?
Yeah.
As a squad, why not? If James McCarthy can prove his fitness to Rodgers, why can he not take on the Aaron Moy role in the squad? He's there anyway. He's only getting paid. I mean, he's in a kind of pay for play deal. He's not on serious money. If he plays, he gets paid no mega money, but good money. And if he doesn't play, he just gets taken your wages. It's a clean slate for everybody. So if Rodgers has said to Abada, no, I want you playing. You see this new boy. He's your understudy for next season. You know, you're your number one winger on the right wing. And the Australians, your understudy, your mama. We don't know.
And even more so now that your man's gone.
I think Abada will strive under Rodgers, Mark, because Rodgers likes his wingers to get forward.
Aye.
You know, and remember we saw it. Remember?
Well, just by the way, we're talking about players leaving. Mind we were talking about Starfelt. And you said, Jacinta's away.
You know, they said I won't dare pronounce this. It's Jacinta Galaraba Dalarucci.
Is that a rash you have, is it?
Huh?
Is that the name of the rash you have?
Put some cream on that, Paul.
Yeah.
That's her name, yeah. That's her name.
A bit of caniston on that, you'll be right in a couple of days, bud.
She actually left, yeah.
Aye,
so
but that's it, she's away. And there's a few teams down in England that are interested in Starfelt. So maybe he could be another one that's away. But for me, I think just everybody, the way it should be when a new manager comes in, it's a clean slate. Do you know what I mean? And guys like James Forrest and Cal McGregor, they'll have told players this is here.
Well, this is
what it's like under him. It's great.
It came out anyway today that Rodgers wants Forrest to stay, Mark, just for some continuity within the first team, to be an experienced player within the team. So Forrest will be staying. But do you remember when Abada first came to the Celtic team, Mark, and he was bombing through the touchline, he was running players on, he was getting past players, and then it stopped. Do you remember that? It stopped. This was a tactic by Ange for the inverted fullbacks to get past him then. You know, Abada will strive under Brendan Rodgers, I think, really would if he stays. I really think Rodgers will make him a better player than he already is. I fully believe that.
Well, you would surely imagine as well, Paul, the fact that Jota is now gone as well is another carrot for him. Because obviously it was always the case that Jota was on one wing and my it was on the other one, and it was always nearly Jota was brought over to the right at the expense of Abada to make sure they could play on the left. Jota's now gone. So now there's a space available. So surely if you're Abada, you're thinking, obviously if Rodgers has had a chat to him, you'll be going, look, as far as I'm concerned, in my head, you're my man for the right wing.
I think there was a falling out there, Mark, between Abada and Ange. You know, because what you're talking about there, the game time. You know,
don't know if it's a falling out, Paul, but I just think he was a wee bit like the same as Giacomakis. He didn't feel as if he was getting enough game time.
Favoured players, Mark. Favoured players.
I mean, I've said it as well. There's tactical substitutions, like throwing on players right at the 89th minute to kill the game off. But you can't throw in wingers and give them 3 minutes of a game and stuff like that and expect them to stake a claim to get a start in the next game.
Yeah.
And it's like Neymar, even when he did come on, when he did play well, the next week he was dropped in that again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to rewrite history, but I have said it before, and we spoke about it even with Kyogo and the Giacomakis situation. Ange definitely had his favourites.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? It's a bit Neymar, if they were fit or no, Neymar, if they were half fit, Ange was playing them, and that seemed to. And that, I mean, that's no good to keep a kind of big squad when you've got so many games a season as Celtic play. You need to manage the squad better than just having these players constantly playing every single week, and then you're expecting a miracle. I mean, look at the St Mirren game. Do you know what I mean? Blew up in his face when he tried to chop and change things the early on game in St Mirren and stuff like that. And I think, but Rodgers is a bit guilty of the same stuff. So I'd like to think, right, Rodgers has come out and said that stuff behind the scenes has changed. So I'd like to think that even he's learned that, well, Celtic's changed as well. So we need to integrate like youth players and what I said earlier about these two signings we've got. They're maybe no first team ready to know, but we want to integrate them into the first team squad, get them some game time this season. But next season, we want Celtic want them part of that first team squad, Brendan. Whether you do or you don't, we need to get them if they meet the targets and they're up to scratch. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
A kind of immediate come and go between the management and the football department to meet in the middle ground and make sure that it's ticking over, everything's the quality of the squad's staying the same.
Mm-hmm. Stephen Welch actually is another. You're saying Starfield might go, Mark. Stephen Welch looks like he could be going out the door there. There seems to be Bologna and Verona from Italy seem to be kind of looking at him at the moment. To 2 million kind of the price market. Do you think for him it's time to go, even if Rodgers is in now, Mark? Like, do you think that he needs to go and Celtic need to cut their ties with him as well?
It's a bit of a conundrum, Paul, because it's like, I mean, I like Stephen Welsh. I don't think he's got to make a great grade at Celtic. I did think he'd a chance a few years back. I used to whinge up about calling him a future Celtic captain and stuff like that. But
if we want to go to this next level, though,
but even at that, Paul, if Italian teams are going to spend £2 or £3 million on him, is he no got something?
They see it, yeah. They see something.
Do you know what I mean? It's like we've just went out and spent £2 million on two young players that we're hoping are going to be brilliant for us in the next year or two. Whereas, but Italian teams are going to want to spend £2 or £3 million on Welsh. He must have something.
I'd rather Welsh than Kobayashi. Or Kobayashi, whatever his name is.
I would probably go with that as well, Terry, to be honest, because he doesn't look...
He has no idea. He can't deal with the physicality at all. He looks like a rabbit in headlights playing. He looks brutal. At least Stephen Welch has a physical side about him. You know what I mean? Yeah, okay. He's kind of regressed a little bit, but I think he's had a bad season with injuries as well, which hasn't helped his cause. But if he could get a good pre-season underneath him, he could be a decent backup to if Starfield and Vickers are still there. Obviously, I'd still be looking to get another centre back in as well. But I'd rather him playing there than that. If that's his right pronunciation, the Japanese fella. I thought he's in any of the games I've seen him. He's been brutal, absolutely brutal.
No harm in the boy, but Welch can go and keep Lewis Ferguson company.
Lewis Ferguson.
He's supposed to be AC Milan.
Aye, somewhere in Coat Bridge area of JFP's ears are twitching like daft, man.
I can agree with JFP as well. I always thought they should have signed him.
Aye, definitely. We spoke how many times did we speak about that?
Nothing to do with Celtic, right? But just because he was a former Celtic youth player, Mark, and me and you kind of always spoke about, we used him as an example when we always spoke about the pathway to Celtic. Liam Morrison signed for Wigan with Sean Roney for a year's loan, and that's the next step for his progress in the Bayern Munich setup, is to get first team football.
Aye,
and sent them out to, they seem to have really stuck to their plan for him, Mark, didn't they? They brought him up through the ranks, got him into the reserve league. His next step now was first team football. They've done that. They did everything right by the boy, didn't they? Bayern Munich.
Oh, aye, definitely. Made doubt about it. I mean, they spun him and his family seed, Paul, with just actually the setup,
the plan.
Just everything. That's another. Again, you can't blame that boy. You can't blame the young boy for doing that. You know what I mean? You really can't.
But no, you like.
But see, we're talking about everybody. That's the thing. We all keep going on about this. We could give him out and loan to help him develop. There's a new. Did you see? I put it up on the forum the other day about the rules that are in now in place with see to stop teams stockpiling players, mind like Chelsea had 39 players out on loan and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Last season it was 8. This season it's coming at 7, and the season after that is 6. You're only allowed 6 loans, but that's in or out.
So you can only have no harm, Mark. Yeah, it's like,
but it can be unless they're under 21 or they're like a homegrown player or something. But it's going to cut down on all these clubs like stockpiling players and just keep them out on loan to see what they're going to do and see how much money they're going to eventually get out of them and stuff like that.
Well, what it does as well, Mark, like it stops all these English Premier League teams buying up the biggest young players that's in the game, you know, and stockpiling these talented players. You know, like that's all they're doing, and that's all. It's what Man City have done, Mark. Like you've always said, Bayern Munich are doing it over in Germany for years. They're buying all the young talented German players, and now they've come into they've come into Europe now and start doing. But like, you'd be mad, a young player, Mark, going to these top teams. You're never going to make the grade there unless you're a phenomenal player. You know, the only player I think that came through Man City for years is Phil Foden. You know, and he's not even that. You know,
but see the thing about it, the players, these young players are getting well paid for it, and
exactly.
Paul, but see, even more important, it's like people moan about the Celtic academy and we don't produce enough players for our own squad. Totally agree with that. But how many players that learned their grounding at Celtic have been owning a decent career in football?
Clearly, Mark,
do you know what I mean?
The problem
that's the thing about it.
But Mark, the problem with Celtic, Mark, is we're clearly producing these players if the likes of Morrison went to Bayern Munich. But our problem is, Mark, we don't know how to integrate them into the first team. No, that's Celtic's problem, and it has been Celtic's problem for years.
That's no Celtic, Paul. That's a Scottish football problem. We get back years and years. Do you know, at Celtic, there's a kind of gulf between. I don't know whether it's because there's no reserve league or no, but even before that, it was even worse. But it was a case. There's no. I don't. How do I put it? There's no middle. There's no middle ground.
But like, look at this fella here from Man City. We're looking at Carlos, the Portuguese under 19s. He's a Portuguese under 21s international, right? He's playing in the reserve league in England, Mark, right? And he's catching the attention of Celtic. Clearly, there's benefits to having a reserve league in Scotland.
Definitely.
If we're looking at players in the English reserve league, Mark, for young talent who's good enough to come up and play for Celtic, first team. You know, like, I know you kind of get sick of talking to it, like, but in a way you have to kind of, and I hate to say it or agree with it. Rangers are right. What they're saying, Mark, is like, it's ridiculous Celtic not having a fucking second tier league for players. You know.
Oh, 1,000,000%. We've spoken about it. But that's that abyss, Paul. Scotland struggled for years to get players to make that step up. For the kind of, but I still call it under 21s, call it reserves, whatever. I mean, I can remember like the Scotland youth team being in the World Cup final against Saudi Arabia. Yeah. Right? No, who was it? I think the only one that ever became was Paul.
You look at the Scottish national team now, Mark, right? And they're doing brilliant. Like, they're sitting at the top table on 12 points, 4 wins out of 4 wins in a really, really tough group. All right. After these crop of players finish, where's the next generation of Scottish players coming in that you're looking at the SPL, you're looking at down in Scotland, down in the Premier League now? There's none there. You know, so this is the generation to enjoy for Scottish football, I think. You know,
I guess it's kind of golden generation.
Yeah.
Aye.
But it's across the board,
Mark, I don't see nothing coming up, Terence, and do you? I don't see it. Like,
I don't, Paul. But like, I've not been funny. If you look at the 2 top teams in Scotland, how many Scottish players are in either side? Very few. If you go to the top teams in England, how many English players in the top 3 or 4 sides. Not very many. Not very many.
No.
So there's a reason. Like you look at when you looked at the Liverpool team or the Man City team or the Chelsea team or even United now. They don't have many. There aren't many like if you want to call it English, Scottish, Irish players playing for those clubs. Very few. They're more getting them from an Everton or obviously there's a few with Spurs and others, but it's no top flight. And in Scotland, like years ago, there would always been probably 4 or 5 in each side that were Scottish boys, in both Celtic and Rangers, or certainly Irish or English or Scottish would have been playing in either Celtic or Rangers. Now you're lucky if you've got 1 or 2 on either side. That has to have an effect. Ireland is a prime example, Paul. Ireland, the Irish team years ago used to be Premiership players, as you call it now, and all players that were playing at top level. Like Ireland, there's guys could be starting for Ireland that are subs and Championship teams.
Yeah,
or even League 1, League 2, going down that far. Do you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, that the if you want to call it the Ireland, England, Scotland, Wales kind of thing, like you need to be an absolutely unbelievable player to be playing at some of the top levels in some of those sides. And as I said, in Scotland there was always a glut of Irish, English, or Scottish fellas playing with Celtic, and the same at Rangers. Now you go through both sides. Who is it? Callum McGregor? Who's that? I don't know if there's even a Scottish fella playing with Rangers.
Jack, but he doesn't kind of get in the starting kind of lineup anymore.
No, he might come in and out. You could maybe Ralston now and again, but I mean, you go through the teams of number. Yeah, Greg Taylor. Sorry, yeah, Greg Taylor. But you go through teams.
I know what you mean. Aye.
You go through teams before, like it is. But that's what I'm saying about when you're saying about the academies and all these things. Like next to no one is, as you rightly said, Paul, will come through the Man City one. Next to no one will come through the Chelsea one. Very few come through Celtic. It's next to impossible for a young guy to come through into the big team because they don't get a chance. If they have 1 or 2 bad games, like Mark said before, they're out of the side and that's it. They're gone. They're no good.
But the difference here is, see, Chelsea or Man City, and they're still going to see. There's this the boy we're talking about for Man City, Paul.
Bawz, yeah.
Aye, I mean they're a Man City reserve, and we're talking about spending £11 million on somebody like that.
Yeah.
So
what's madly?
You know what I mean? So no, it's crazy, but that's what I mean. These players, although they're stockpiling and they're not getting maybe first team football and stuff like that, they're getting one of the best groundings in the game, and because they're coming for these kind of clubs, other clubs know that they're getting players right.
Best of training.
They've not hurt the heights, but they've
but well, Mark, like
everything. But see, Paul. See, before we go finish about that, but see what you're saying about Bayern Munich. Did you see what that Simon Jordan said the other day about Harry Kane going to Bayern Munich? But is it Simon Jordan?
Yeah, that's
Simon Jordan, yeah, the former Crystal Palace for the year.
He was on about why would he go to Bayern Munich? We're leaving England to go to, as if Bayern Munich some wee diddy club. Pure absolute pig ignorant.
But it's snobbery.
Oh, I couldn't honestly.
But that's all. Well, he's always been like that, Mark. Like he's always been.
He's kind of like a shock jockey.
But that's
see if you don't know, Bayern Munich is one of the biggest clubs in the world, one of the richest clubs in the world. You shouldn't be even on talking to anybody about football. You shouldn't even phone your pal to talk about football.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
He even said the same about Rodgers going back to Celtic, Mark. Why would Rodgers go back there? He could have waited till September, October to get a proper job again in the English Premier League. Why would he go back to Celtic?
Because a wee snidey Grim Reaper rat waiting for somebody getting a sack to take their job off them.
Yeah, but that's basically what he said about Rodgers. Rodgers clearly, I feel Rodgers had a point to prove at Celtic, Mark, within Europe. Do you know what I mean? He knew domestically, Mark, he knew Celtic were strong domestically, were too strong domestically, but do
you think
he failed at Europe at Celtic? Mark Rodgers did, and he wanted to have another crack at Europe at Celtic, And
he failed at European level, Paul. And did they maybe think to yourself that it wasn't all his fault?
Yeah, I think so, Mark.
I mean, I've
I've
said this to you before. Is Rodgers back here to prove a point? He's back here to prove a point. Look, I'm just kidding on. I'm talking like Rodgers kind of thing. I'm not back here to cause grudges, talk about anybody, badmouth anybody. I'm back here to show what I could have done if I'd been back to the time.
Yeah,
I'm here back here to
Mark,
prove a point.
You want Tisanga and you're getting the lad. Was it Trojan or Tulin we got that time or something like that? I mean, he never got the players he wanted, like.
I mean, like Scott, see at the beginning, like Scott Sinclair, for me, that was a Brendan Rodgers signing.
The first season we backed Rodgers, Mark. After that,
it was just, I mean, I was watching a video the other day and it was, I don't know what year it was, but like, see when you saw it, it was like a league celebration, but see when you seen the players in the park, I'm actually amazed that we actually won trebles, you know what I mean, when you break down some of the actual players we had.
But the difference now, Mark, is...
But he's coming into a team, Paul, that's just, let's face it, see this Celtic team now, it's one of the best, strongest teams Scottish football's ever seen.
Not just the team as well, Mark, it's the infrastructure. No, that's at Celtic since Peter Law left. We've a proper scouting department there. Do you know what I mean? And we fixed up facilities in it, Mark. We put in the state-of-the-art training team that he wanted. It was Rodgers who wanted this back then, Mark. We should have had this training system that we talked about in the podcast last season, Mark, when Ange came in. I think it was put in January, wasn't this? Rodgers wanted that 4 years ago. You know what I mean? This is what proper Champions League teams had, Mark.
But I think Paul, honestly, I think he hinted at that in his press conference.
He did, yeah. The infrastructure is there now when we didn't have it 4 years ago.
I think he hinted at that it's a totally different ball game now, and this is a Celtic he signed up for 7 years. You know what I mean? Before this is what he wanted. The potential is there now to do what he wanted to do. But
before we get into the times now, Mark, that Rodgers wanted, do you know what I mean? That these top European teams have already in place. You know what I mean? And the money's there now. Not like we're all about bringing in players and bringing in this, but it's not just about bringing in players. It's bringing in the proper infrastructure, Mark, that I think Rodgers will build on what Ange brought in. You know, Rodgers would have a lot more and less than that. Yeah,
I think he'll improve it. Because I mean, Ange, I mean, I'm not going to start bad mouthing and try to rewrite history, man. The guy was a brilliant manager for us. He did transform the club in ways we couldn't even probably have dreamt at the time when he came in.
Exactly.
But let's face it, he's no an elite manager. Do you get what I mean? He's not proving himself at the top level.
Rodgers elite. Rodgers proved this.
That's what he has.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. He managed Liverpool, right? And right, he went a bit Pete Tong at the end. Right, he managed Leicester, and he done consistently. Leicester have done occasionally well, but he made it a kind of consistent. What was it? Top 5 2 years in a row. One. Do you know what I mean? Done well. I mean, fair dues. They won the league a few years back, but Rodgers done really well for them, and he is a different level of manager. He's used to Premier League standards, top level standards, in all departments, whether it's the training facilities, whether it's the physios and the sports science and stuff like that. He's used to that kind of elite level that teams like the Premier League and that provide, and that's what I think is going to happen at Celtic. I think he can take Celtic even to another level for Ange.
Mm-hmm. I think as well, Paul, a big factor as well is that you're allowing the professional people who know what they're doing to do their job properly. You're allowing, if you're the sports strength and conditioning guy, he's a strength and conditioning guy. I know what he has to do. He's the analyst guy. Michael Nichols is the CEO. He's the finance guy. Not like before where you seem to have one individual who wanted to do everyone's job. It's now a case that it seems to be your job is that, your job is that, your job is that, your job is that. I expect you to do that, I expect you to do that, I expect you to do that, and I expect you to do that, with no interference. With zero interference. And I think that has to been a huge change around when the Spurs manager came in, and obviously Michael Nichols as well came to the helm, that there did appear to be a completely good different structure put into place, and people knew what their roles were, and they went and done them.
Mm-hmm. I think Moyes. Sorry, Mark, go on.
No, just when Terence was talking about Nicholson there, did you not think that during the press conference with Rodgers that Nicholson doesn't want to sit in front of cameras, didn't he?
No, he didn't.
No, he's no interest.
And that's why I think that's why Peter Lil was in there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Peter Lil, he likes in front of the camera and he can control. Do you know? I don't think there was any kind of undermining or any even. Well, maybe even a wee bit of PR that him and Rodgers were sitting next to each other. But I think Lil was there just to kind of take the spotlight away from Nicholson. I don't think that. I mean,
I think
that's the first time I've heard him speak.
You was, Mark,
I don't know what the actual
Scottish voice. That's what it was. It was a squeaky Scottish voice. So I didn't expect his voice to be like that, to be honest with you. You know, I didn't. I thought Peter Lawler as well. Mark looked a bit nervous in that press conference. You know, I really did. I thought it was.
Is that not his first time in front of cameras as well if he came back?
Yeah, it was. You know what I mean? And I don't think he wanted to be there himself, Mark. But I think what you said there, Mark, it was all PR, that there's no rift between the likes of PR, Brendan. I thought, Mark, the whole club handled all that situation well. You know what I mean? You know? And what did people did people expect from Brendan when they asked him the question about leaving? Was he going to say,
sorry, I would expect him to jump up, Paul, rip his shirt off, Superman still with sackcloth and ashes, and when he hangs out the Da Vinci Code, the guy digs into his leg to fucking torture himself for his past crimes. You know what I'm talking about?
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, do I regret it? Of course he doesn't regret it, Mark. You know what I mean? You know, football is football, like, do you know what I mean? So, you know, if he's here for 3 years, you'll be happy, Mark, if he stayed for the 3 years. Do you know what I mean? We can see then after that. I don't think Rodgers will do the same thing he did this time.
No,
you know, I really don't.
I don't think he will. And again, Paul, as you maybe realised as well, I mean, let's face it, the guy, he's a complete millionaire now. I was looking up stuff.
Definitely.
He owns something like 106 properties around about England and stuff like that, and all these properties are in Spain, sir.
Yeah, Jurgen Klopp lives in his house, Mark.
I mean, what age is he? 42 or something like that, Rodgers.
Yeah.
He's not old. I mean, I honestly think that Rodgers will look at this. It's an opportunity to make up what Terence is saying there. He doesn't regret leaving. He regrets the hurt he caused people because it's personal. Yeah. Not even that, his family and stuff like that. I mean, it kind of touched on that. His family gave him a lot of grief for it, kind of thing. A lot of probably. Do you know what I mean? Half serious, but it still kind of gets an arrow in it when people say stuff. And I think he'll look at that and say, well, I could be here for 3 years. I've said I'll be here for 3 years. As long as Celtic want, I mean, Anne said that as long as you want me, but I'm not going to jump at just the next pub league team that flashes their knickers at us. I'm not going to leave here to go back to like a fucking Bournemouth or do you know what I mean?
I don't think so, Mark.
No, I think it would need to be a really, really top job for him to actually decide that he wanted to jump ship at Celtic. Honestly, for the next 3 to 5 years, I'd say I expect Rodgers to be here for between 3 to 5 years, to be honest.
But there's also huge emphasis on Celtic to ensure that he stays there, that he ensures that he's given what he's.
But that's it, Terence. That's it. See, that's it. And I think that's the only time that I can see if there's a breakdown in the plan, Mark, that he planned to take Celtic and they gave the guarantees. And I think that's the only way there'll be a breakdown. Like we haven't seen that with Ange. Ange has got the back in that. Ange has got things what he wanted, be on players or infrastructure. And I expect Celtic to do the same with Rodgers now, Mark, as well. You know?
But who's signing off? Who do you think signing off the changes on the infrastructure?
It's McCoy, I think, isn't it? It's McCoy.
I'm not talking about the money side of things. I'm talking about like the football side of things. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think it's Mark Law.
See, I think that.
You see, Mark, I said it to you, Mark, and I said it here last week. I don't think Mark Law is chief scout. I actually think he's
unofficial
more of a director.
An unofficial director of football kind of thing.
You know, because these changes,
I've not got a problem with that.
and I don't think, Mark, it was all down to Ange either. I think, Mark, it's a lot of it has come. A lot of these changes outside the first team, Mark, and stuff have come in since Mark Lawrence came in. All these changes in training and facilities and stuff like that. You know?
But your Mark or Paul, one of them's come from with the greatest Yokohama, the other one's come from Man City. You know, exactly. So if you look at Man City set up now, what they have down in there, when you see clips of it in bits and pieces, it's stunning. So it's no coincidence that if it is the likes of Mark Law, well, that's basically directing Celtic in that direction.
It's what I said in the last podcast, Mark, was Terry said it was Nicholson, but I said it was Mark Law. He was the best signing we've done. You know, really was. You know, really was. Moving on with Rodgers as we return to his Celtic squad will be reporting the pre-season tomorrow at Lennoxtown. It'll be the first time the players have met new Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers. They will be put through their paces, get used to Brendan Rodgers' methods of playing football. It'll be a chance for Rodgers to sit down with players, tell them his plans. The players will tell them their plans. As you said, Mark, it's a clean slate for everyone. But I'm not expecting too many changes, Mark, to the way we play, because there is some similarities between Rodgers, I think, and what I've heard as well, reading about Rodgers, Mark, he actually wanted last season, he wanted to play inverted fullbacks at Leicester last season, but injuries prevented him from doing that last season. He tried it, and his two fullbacks got injured in trying it, and he couldn't implement this into Leicester. So Rodgers is aware of this inverted fullbacks. I think we could actually still keep the inverted fullbacks, Mark, next season if Rodgers was trying at Leicester. Anyone there?
I'm here. Maybe he could, Paul. But if he does, great. But for me, once they keep the intensity and the level and the speed up that they had when they were at their maximum, that's what I definitely want to see. If they keep the inverted fullbacks, then yeah, fair enough. But definitely the defending from the front, the chasing down, the harassing, just the fitness levels through the roof, and high tempo, quick accurate passing. That would be for me what I'd want. And if they do the inverted fullbacks, yeah, no problem. But definitely want to keep the same level of intensity that they had when at their peak. That's what I'd want Celtic to definitely keep going with.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know, didn't catch what you're talking about, Paul. To go chase that daft dog again. But
no, I was just saying.
But see what we're talking about like that, right? Taking back to like playing this fullback role. Do you think? I mean, this might sound a bit crazy, but do you think maybe Rodgers has seen you and thought he doesn't work hard enough, and that's why he sanctioned the kind of
but we know from Rodgers, right?
Get back to Sinclair. Sinclair ran up and down. Like, do you know what I mean?
That's the one thing, right? That's the one thing Rodgers liked, Mark. He liked players tracking back. Right, track back and help out, because Rodgers liked his full backs at the time, Mark, to go forward, and then your wingers would track back as well with that, you know. And you're right, Mark.
Overlapping. One to the two of them kind of switch positions during the game.
Yeah.
Confused people. Aye.
Yeah, you know. But what I was saying to Terence there, Mark, about Rodgers at the start of last season, he was trying out inverted full-backs. He was trying to bring that into his Leicester team, and actually injuries prevented him from doing it. So Rodgers is aware of this new inverted full-backs. You know, so could you actually see him seeing the Celtic already know how and playing that, where he might play it slightly different to Ange, he might play it the exact same way as Ange. could you think maybe he could still keep the inverted fullbacks at Celtic?
Oh, I don't know. Really, do we know? We don't really know how he's going to plan the
We
team
don't,
out,
Mark,
but
because what I said to you, Mark, Rodgers
maybe
changed his
it's got,
formation a lot at
maybe it's
Leicester.
going to be a mix and match.
Yeah, because he changed his formation a lot at Leicester, and that's one thing I've seen from Rodgers, Mark. Something we didn't see when at his time with Celtic was he's adapted to different formations. The style of play stays the same, attacking football, possession-based football, but he changes it for like we've always said that on the Ange. He could change the formation, but the system stays the same. You know, but Rodgers seems to have done that. You know, also Celtic will be going to Japan. We're going to have a European training camp as well. I suppose, is the hype still with Japan, Marks, that Ange's gone? It was all kind of his homecoming with Japan players, you know what I mean? It's
a bit of dead rubber, isn't it?
You know, it really is.
We'll make money out of it, but I mean, really, the only point in any of these kind of tours, Paul, to make money.
Yeah.
I don't even think there's any. See all this part about the training camp. I don't believe all that garbage. This is all these tours, and that's just to make money. Training camps is getting away dragged. We even dragged to Portugal when it's scorching and stuff like that. We know
where are we going actually this year? We're going because I was looking at it, and it didn't say where we were going. Really, they're going to a training camp before they go to Japan.
I think that's in Portugal.
In Portugal, Mark, is it?
Aye, but again, it's just money, Paul. The games are meaningless.
Oh yeah, Mark, this is revenue for Celtic, sell jerseys.
That is the only thing, the only kind of point of these games. I mean, Celtic were getting heavy. They'll be getting. Well, I'd like to think they're getting serious money because Wolves pulled out because the sponsors weren't paying up the.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. What's going to happen with the one in South Korea? They still kind of haven't got someone there. You know? Will they pick up
to be honest, see for any questions about money or that, the best thing Celtic could do is just pull out it.
Do you know what, Mac? I would put out and just get a team. Maybe have a pre-season in Celtic Park. Get a team from down south to come up to Celtic Park and play. You know?
But it would do much good, wouldn't it, really?
You know, I would, Mark, because I mean, all this travelling around as well, like, you know what I mean, and stuff like. I prefer Celtic to be Portugal and just do the tour to Japan, come home and just have or even have no match, just have more training under Rodgers. You know,
just forget about going to Japan.
You know, I don't think they could now, though, could they?
Might be too late, though, like, isn't it, to be fair?
Japan. But that's really, it's a bit, isn't it, with Ange away, it's just kind of took a kind of point there.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a little bit more meaningless that he's not obviously in charge. That was kind of half the reason. It was nearly like going to Australia. It was kind of like a second homecoming, so to speak. I suppose the only reason they'll keep going with it, obviously, is one. Obviously, it's probably all. Yeah, and obviously you've got a reasonable quantity of Japanese players in the squad. So you put your Kyogos and Hatates and Maedas and so forth. They can still go on that basis, but it would have looked really strange if two or three of them had gone as well. You'd be kind of going, this is really pointless. But I think it's probably too late to look to change it. I agree with you about the South Korea one. If there's any doubt about that, I don't think it's going to make a massive difference if they withdraw from that, to be perfectly honest, and do exactly like what Paul was saying there. You know, have the training at home and go to the Algarve or somewhere like that and have pre-season friendlies at home against whoever it may be. You know what I mean? Teams from down south.
Did there be no short of a team that would come up to the Celtic Park, Terence, to play a friendly pre-season friendly against Celtic? You know, that's what.
100%. Like, and as I said, the South Korean one is obviously more. That's more of a money spinner than actually worrying about playing a game. You know. But it may be the case.
We should have put that in Ange's termination deal. Pre-season friendly, Celtic Park.
He can piss off.
No, Celtic against Spurs.
No, he can piss off.
You still feeling sad, Terence? Aye.
I say, Mark, they'd be uproar by. They really would by. Jesus Christ, by. They'd be the fucking Green Brigade would have a banner up for Rogers fucking saying about him, and then they'll have another one then about fucking Ange then at half time. You know? That's what they will. But we'll have no budget then for Flag Day. Then that's what we want. Fuck's sake. You know, like, are you expecting? I don't know how to put this now. Like the players coming back in out to pre-season, like they were expecting to come back into Ange or things like that. And like there's been very little side. Like
the players are over coming into the more Paul. See the players that are due back. The players the ones that weren't away.
International junior, another week or two, aren't they? They're joining up in the Portuguese camp, Mark. That's what they are.
But
yeah,
these players that are turning up the Morapol, they'll know everything that's expected of them. See if we're talking Carl McGregor, James Forrest, Ralston. These guys will have told them, look, this is like it's even. It might even be stupid stuff like here. If you're a minute late, he'll get off his nut with you. Do you know, it could be stuff like that, but the players that are coming in, they'll know exactly what to expect for Brendan Rodgers is like a man. Because there's players here that have worked under him, they know what to expect. So there'll be a lot of petty stuff, do you know what I mean? Stuff like, as I said, don't be a minute late at all. It'll just go ballistic with you. Stuff like that. Don't be eating McDonald's because you can tell with your sports science you'll be eating a lot of shite and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But McGregor and James Forrest, Ralston, guys that have been here for 30 years, they'll have been in wee group chats and let other guys know what to expect for this.
I wouldn't even be surprised. I know he won't train, but I wouldn't even be surprised if the likes of McGregor was at it, like the Lennox Town, not on camera, but and actually there because obviously been the captain, been there for the first day, like not trained, but just there for half an hour before when the players are arriving, basically having a chat and then heading away. It wouldn't surprise me if he was there because it'd been Rodgers' first day.
No, I expect McGregor to be there, Terence.
Yeah, I do too.
Reason, I think McGregor
just the type of player he is, Mark. Yeah.
He doesn't need to be running about daft. Do you know what I mean? He just needs to be there to kind of.
He might even train. Like he might just want to be there just because it's the first day and it's a new manager, and just it'd be different if it was the Spurs manager. It'd be different. He'd still be on holidays, but if it's because it's Rodgers, he might say, "Look, I need to be here." It's kind of the link between the players and him.
Things that Rodgers said in his interview there as well, like that. Fucking he met McGroy over in Mallorca as well. You know that he spoke to Callum McGregor about coming back and stuff like that. So clearly, the players are kind of behind. Like I wouldn't see why they would behind Rodgers coming in, like Mark. You know what I mean? So, you know, what I tried to say like is with kind of pre-season already starting, Mark, we don't have kind of a lot of new signings in it like that. Like, are we kind of, how would I put this? Like, not really kind of prepared for the season yet, or something like that. You know.
No.
And a new manager coming in and stuff like that. Like pre-season is crucial for any player, you know. No, I know they'd be kind of reporting the pre-season with their own clubs as well and stuff like that before we sign them, like, you know.
Right, well, a lot of the contract stuff and like fees and even money players are due and stuff like that. That all comes into place between the end of June, the beginning of July. So a lot of my players are available than they were maybe 5 days ago, and. But when it comes down to Celtic stuff, like it's just I think McGregor will be there the more for his pre-season.
Yeah, definitely.
For the simple reason that he's a club captain and he's probably not getting any better today. And it's not as if these players are coming in doing training and stuff like that, Paul. It's just like maybe they kind of beat test and checking fitness levels and a wee bit of run about and a kick about. So it's not like hard going. But I see the next week or so now that all this stuff like where players are, even their intentions and stuff. I mean, I'd like to think even like the likes of Rodgers and even Callum McGregor have said to all the players, look, what's happening? Have you got a move in the pipeline? Are you going to be here? At least let us know so we can kind of plan what we're going to be doing. Which is just kind of common courtesy with a new manager coming in.
Exactly.
But I'm looking at it early next week, the squad will start taking shape. I'm honestly expecting a sign to be announced this week. I do
Think
just
so?
for the simple. Aye, well, why no, Paul?
Yeah.
But the
Because we
squad
really
isn't.
need to get.
A bit of positive PR, a bit some
Yeah.
headlines, grab back and see the players going. We've just went out and bought a new. I mean, it's a said we've already signed 2 players, but something
Needs
a
to be
bit.
first team. Needs to be first
Aye,
team starter. Yeah,
aye,
that's
aye,
it.
something to grab the attention. Brendan Rodgers, his first day back tomorrow morning, and look, they're a brand new shiny signing for Brendan Rodgers. We just bought from.
Yeah.
But if you look how strong the squad is, Paul, like I understand where you're coming from, but if you looked at the squad and you said you had the normal team that started of Hart, Taylor, Starfield, Vickers, Johnson, McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly, Abada, Maeda, Kyogo. Do you know what I mean? If you had to have a match in 2 weeks' time and you'd be quite content if that was your starting team, no question. And if Celtic can get 1 or 2 really bits of quality in on top of that, you know what I mean? They're
Win the
laughing.
league terms. That team you've just named would probably win the league.
Yeah, you know, and that's still leaving out the likes of is still there, and Awata's there, still there, Ralston's still there. You know, that's just, you know, and you've got the 2 new boys in already, you know, as well there. So, I mean, it's a very, very strong squad. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Paul, but of previous transfer windows, you'd be kind of looking, going, oh God, you need to get a few in. I'd say what happens, Paul, is too many people are looking, in a sense, from the Celtic point of view, of what's happening across the city. But they're in the situation. They're in the situation that Celtic are in.
Exactly.
12 or 24 months ago, before the Spurs manager came in.
Freetransfers.fc, huh?
Yeah, but you know what I mean. So everyone is looking at that, going, "Oh, they've signed 5 or 6 or 7 players." Celtic don't need to do that. The squad is very, very strong. The players in it. Once the players that are there, as Mark has rightly said, if players want to go, grand, fair enough, go and when Celtic get the right fees for them, no issue. Players want to stay and play with Celtic, the majority of them will still be there. And I said, you add a little bit more quality again, and the squad in my opinion is laughing. It's a very, very strong squad. It's the strongest squad as I've seen in Celtic in a long, long time.
Especially when it's a new manager coming in terms.
Yeah, they normally come into. And the manager comes in when things are gone pear-shaped.
Aye, and even Rodgers touched on that. He says most of the time you get into a club and things aren't going the way the owners or whatever want them to be going. So that's how you end up in here. But he's went to a club that's just come off a treble.
Yeah.
As I've said earlier, honestly, for me, this Celtic squad now is up there for the strength, getting back to even Mark O'Neill times.
And I imagine
Stratton had good teams in that, and you know how I felt about Ronnie and stuff like that. But the actual squad, the strengthened squad in that we've got, is absolutely just different gravy compared to anything else that Scotland has got to offer.
Could you imagine for argument's sake, Rodgers got the Swiss lad, and he got the lad you named a while ago, Mark, the CDM fella, the fella who played with Leicester.
Indeed.
Yeah, imagine he got him and the Swiss lad, and that's basic. And then you had the other 2 lads and maybe someone else in. You'd be absolutely laughing, like, because the key is for me is when they're bringing in stuff, especially if they're bringing in guys, they need to be going, okay, can he? If I'm bringing in a centre back, is he better than what I have? Yeah, he is. I'm bringing in a centre forward, is he better than what I have? Yeah, he is. I think Celtic, because the squad is so strong, I just don't want them to bring in another guy that's going to be a potential backup. I'd rather them go, I'm going to bring. We need a really good CDM. This is the guy. He's going to cost us 12 or 13 million. Blah blah blah. Get him or whatever. I'd rather them get the 1 or 2 or 3 fellas that that I can go straight in the first team, and they're going to make a huge difference because the squad is so strong at the minute. That's what I'd like to do.
I totally agree with that, Terence. I mean, the squad we've got the new, fair dues, we maybe lose a cup game or that next season, but honestly, even losing Jota, I'm still confident the squad we have got the new would win us the league next year without even improving on it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd be in the same boat as you.
Fair dues, them at Ibrox are strengthening, but I mean they're not really strengthening. They're shotting about in the basement.
Do you know what they remind me of, Mark? They remind me of Rangers. No, we remind me of Celtic on the piece of Lauren signing, looking at the transfer market, free transfers, signing the second, third player on their list that they couldn't get the first team player. That's what they remind me of Celtic a couple of years back. You know, that's what.
No, but the thing about it is, Paul, see when Peter Law was doing that, we could afford the first choice and he just
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
whereas they can't get that first choice.
Yeah, you know, that's what we can't. Like, you know, I'm saying.
The thing, Paul, I mean, even get back to the money and stuff like that. There, see what we're getting for Hatate. That's more money than Rangers are getting in transfers or spending transfers for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's the gulf between us and them now, and that's what we need to keep going.
Yeah, see,
I keep harping on about it, Paul. We should start looking on Scottish football the way PSG look on their league, like Bayern Munich and that look on. The leagues are bread and butter, and 9 times out of 10 we'll dominate the league and win the league. There'll always be a wee freak occasion when we don't, but we just knuckle down, spend more money, and take care again.
It has to be quality, Mark. That's
aye.
It has to be quality. I'd rather have two signings in that cost nearly 30 million or high 25 million than rather having 8 or 9 signings in that cost 25 million.
Aye.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way Celtic need to just kind of look at things. I've said it for you, Paul, even before we started doing the podcast. Me and you used to talk about this. You know what I mean? In a way, I mean, years ago, you used to pick up the Scottish paper and you would read about, I've showed you the clips and that, but Rangers got to see Ronaldo and Robbie Fowler and that when Kenny Dalglish was a super scouts and stuff like that. Right? And that was all absolutely pie in the sky. And as I've seen, when we look back on it, it was all built on a castle of sand. It was all cheating. Celtic are not cheating. Celtic's not cheating. We're not doing anything wrong. We're
built the club and structure,
We're making this money through the fans, through the club, through sponsorships, through transfer fees and everything. And we are at a level comparable to like your PSG in France. I'm not saying financially, I'm talking about the difference between us and the next team below us. And we just need to keep doing that. And it is bread and butter for a good manager. So you're looking at somebody, if you're saying a manager like Rodgers, you're looking at the bigger picture now. You've got to look at, we've got to make our name in Europe. Any half decent manager can come into Scotland and probably win the league for Celtic, you know, with the financial gap and that.
But what is the ambition? Like, you know what I mean? What is this progress in Europe? Like next season in Europe, I would expect us finish third. Europa League after Christmas, I'd be happy with that. Right? Get a good run in Europa League, I'd be quite happy with that. Season 2, the Champions League format finishes. It'd be the first 2 and stuff like that. And I think the third team, I said it 2 weeks ago, Mark. I think this will be it. I think the third team will go into a knockout stage as well, and then they'll go into the playoffs then with the other crowds. I think that's going to be the next one. Is the progress
you're no better than me, Paul. I'm not actually sure how that's going to work. Buzz
that's just the talks at the moment, Mark. There's that.
Good night, Bobby, mate. Thanks for coming in. Have a great holiday, bud.
So, like, there's been nothing finalised yet. Like, so what I'm thinking, right? Next season, finish third. Second season, finish third. If that's the way it goes, because you're not going to get down to Europa League anymore, you know. So the next season will be third, playoffs. Season 3, progress is made. I expect Celtic to finish second at least. You know, if that's the right progress we should be looking at, if that's the plan that they have.
The draw is huge. The draw is huge, though.
You're looking at the luck of the draw for that to happen, Paul.
But that's what I'm saying, yeah. But is that the progress? Maybe I'm thinking Brendan Rodgers sees, Mark, with where he wants to go with Celtic. You know what I mean? You know,
I probably think, Paul, I mean, forget all this dropping down to other leagues and stuff like that, Paul. But even down to the fact I think he'd want to just be competing.
Yeah.
If Celtic,
Well, I don't think that's
Celtic's
fair
even a
anyway,
chance,
Mark, because
but
if
see
you look
if
at
the
Europa
Champions- see
League,
if-
like there's freaking like the teams dropping down there. Like you have Juventus, you have like AC Milan, Paris Saint-Germain, Barcelona. They shouldn't be dropping down to the Europa League anyway at all. Do you know what I mean? It's not a level playing field for the teams in the Europa League. You know?
That's just the way you say it. Oh, Paul, there are teams
Yeah,
that
it's
probably say
ridiculous,
Celtic
yeah.
shouldn't be doing that.
It's ridiculous. You know, I remember. Do you remember the Cup Winners' Cup was about the teams who actually just won the cup, not the teams who finished fourth or third in the Premier League. You know?
Right, but that was fair.
Yeah, exactly.
Because even we did the teams that won our national cup and that end up getting European games.
Yeah, sure. Look at this season. It was Hibs that got into the
Conference, is it?
Conference League and not Inverness. You know,
Thank God.
but that's what I'm saying, Mark. Like it's just the way it has changed. But it's not the same as it used to be. Like, you know what I mean? It's not.
But you have to remember, Paul, when you're talking about progress, which is very fair. Like progress has to be, and it's very, very sad to say it, but progress has to be for Celtic to try and win a game in a knockout.
Exactly,
They haven't won a knockout game since 2004.
Mm-hmm.
So that's absolutely that's a shocking record by Celtic. I think it's something like 2004 or something like that. Since the last time they won a knockout.
Yeah.
What age
In Europe.
were you then, Paul?
Fuck, am I supposed to know about?
Just take 20 off it, Paul, and add one, all right?
All right, Paul would be 52 then.
Yeah, but you
22.
you know what I mean. Do you know what I mean, Mark? I mean I understand what everyone is saying, like,
Embarrassing.
but that's why you have to be careful and kind of, in a sense, taper what the expectation is. I agree with you. I think I would expect Celtic to.
Some of the shite teams we've faced. That's the point. That's what's embarrassing.
What is it when you've been beaten by Ferencvaros and Cluj and hammered by Sparta Prague?
Brendan Rodgers' first game, Red Imps Lincoln or whatever they were called.
Yeah, right. Yeah, beaten by them. You know, but I'm saying in a knockout stage, they haven't won since 2004.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've played plenty of teams, Copenhagen's and all these other teams. You know, and even like we all know, they had Champions League, hammered Europa League, didn't qualify in the Champions League, then didn't get through the Europa League, then wound up getting hockeyed by Bodo Glimt. So I mean, I agree what you're saying. They need to progress, but they need to try and start learning to walk before they can run, because I think we're kind of thinking that they're a lot better than they actually are. You know, they kind of I can't see them, Paul, in all honesty, in 3 years' time finishing second in any group in the Champions League. I hope I'm wrong. Draw obviously dependent, but I hope I'm wrong, because like what Mark brought it up there recently, we have all these players come and going and they love playing at Celtic Park. It's great atmosphere, great fun, great everything. Yeah, because they've spanked Celtic 3-0, 4-0, 5-1, whatever it might be. Do you know, so from that point of view, like I would love to see Celtic finish third, and I think they should be competing more to finish third in the Champions League. I don't think, obviously, top of it's not happening. It's like me growing hair. That's not going to happen. And you know, second is massively dependent on the group or on the draw, whereas third has to be realistic, because the third and fourth teams generally, unless you get a right stinker of a draw, the third and fourth teams are generally close enough to be on par with each other. Do you know, there's normally not a massive difference between 3 and 4. There's a huge difference between 1 and 4 and 1 and 3. Yeah. But generally there isn't a massive difference between 3 and 4. And that's where Celtic need to try and make sure that they finish at least third in the Champions League if they can. But if they do go into the Europa League, they also need to be a lot more competitive in that, because they're gone from a Champions League to Europa League. They should be more competitive. Do you know, and they're not. So it's a massive ask for me for Celtic in Europe again this year.
What do you think your problem is by that term split that we've not?
I think it's psychological. I think it's massively psychological.
The different managers we've had and still not been able to get an away win.
Yeah, but it's mentality, Mark. If you look at some of the misses that Celtic had in the Champions League, some of the misses like Kyogo's had, some of the misses that Bad has had, it's nearly like some of them are nearly like rabbit in headlights. They nearly freeze on the big stage, like. You watch naturally enough the better players with the better teams, and they get half a chance and bang, and it's a goal. It's in the back of the net, like.
That big Mudrick.
It's just coming out there that Mark. It's just coming out there that just as you're discussing, Mark, you're saying potential signings could be coming this week. Celtic are close to be signing Swedish international left back Gabriel Gudmundsson from Lille. Deal is expected to be done early next week.
That's not good news for Taylor.
No.
Deal is expected to be done early next week. Left back. Deal is supposed to be done. They've also sanctioned deals to be done for McCarthy and Turnbull early next week as well. That's coming from Fabrizio.
Well, that's if that's the case, Paul, especially with McCarthy and Turnbull, for me, then that's good, because in a sense, as if they're not going to be involved in the squad and he doesn't see them in the squad, there's no requirement to have them around. Free up money, free up wages, free up everything. Mm-hmm. If you can obviously move them on permanently, that is.
Mm-hmm. Well, we spoke about Turnbull, didn't we? We spoke about Taylor's role, Mark, on the Rodgers. Would he be suited to it? And if we're looking at a left back, it doesn't look good to him. But like Tim said there, does it?
No.
Really doesn't like.
Anybody else's Twitter not working right?
Yeah, sure. He put in a new. You can only read 400 news points a day, and that's why it's not working.
Maybe Paul, it's a case of not the Twitter thing now, but maybe it's a case that he doesn't see that Bernabeu as an option. Maybe he wants two fullbacks and he doesn't. I don't.
I heard he could be going back to Argentina on loan.
Yeah. I don't rate him. I think he's. I haven't been impressed with him now, I have to be honest. But again, it's my personal opinion. But maybe he sees him as the problem and says, "Well, I've got Greg Taylor. I know what he can do. But if he gets injured, I've got no one to back him up."
Yeah, could be.
And also, as we said, you have to when you're bringing in a player, you ideally want to go, am I bringing in a guy that's better in the position that's already there? And you hope the answer is yes. So you've got two good players competing for the one spot.
Yeah, because rumours are that his new wife with the new baby is in kind of settling, Mark, in Scotland. And that Celtic might actually let him go to Argentina on loan again, back home. So
he's no kind of showing out in that, but was he on the fringes the Argentinians international squad a couple of months ago? Yeah,
he was. Maybe going back home, Mark, might actually help him again to get back in there. I don't know.
I think it'll be a big ask for him with any kind of future at Celtic, to be honest, Paul.
Well, there's big money we paid in as well for him, Mark. 3.5 million.
Aye.
It wasn't a cheap deal either. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's a prime example. There, Terence. Like what we were talking about a while ago, spending 3.5 million on a player kind of unknown, really, and then it's not working out. You know what I mean? Instead of buying these kind of known players that we do know, and players who are kind of first team ready, like I'm saying,
Yeah, but like it's a huge obviously culture difference coming from Argentina to Scotland. It's a different. It was obviously the years ago the Brazilian fella that Celtic signed, Rafael Schmeitz, whatever, was 5.5 million. Never kicked the ball. Like he was horrific. But no, I mean, and in fairness, Bernabei has got game time. He started games. He
just never looked comfortable to me, so he didn't.
He's had one or two flashes where he's looked okay, but generally speaking, he looks like he's a South American because he looks like he's about to kill someone when he at any stage. Like he looks like a right hothead. I don't mind that. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind that, but I always thought he was. I thought he was weak. He definitely played against Rangers. I think he played against Hearts, and he struggled. He struggled in Tynecastle. He struggled in Ibrox, and they're always good gauges to kind of judge your player.
I think as well, when he got that booking mark for the handball, that seems he kind of went downhill after that.
Aye, that kind of knocked the confidence out of him. Aye,
yeah, and he was afraid to go in. Like Terence is saying there, like he seemed to be a player who got and kicks. So, and I think that's the type of player he is. That he'll go in for these hard tackles. But I think he's afraid now to go into these tackles, Mark, because he'll get booked or get sent off with the Scottish referees.
It does. He always looked a bit like a kind of rabbit in a headlight, kind of.
Yeah.
When he is playing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he must have something. He must
Definitely.
have. We're not seeing it, but just again, I know when he's transfers, it doesn't seem to have worked out really.
Yeah, but he could suit Rogers' style as well, Mark, because I always thought he was good going forward.
Look more at that kind
pacey,
of overlapping fullback.
And he could put in decent crosses as well. Like he put in decent deliveries to the ball into the box as well. I think he could be. I like to see him under Rogers.
Everybody's just got a clean slate, Paul.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it. If players want to be here and work under Rodgers, they'll be here, and if they don't, we can get shot at them and get top dollar for them.
And the start of the season is getting close. The 5th of August, Celtic are at home to St Mirren. 12:30 kickoff. We're away to Aberdeen on the 12th. We're home to St Johnstone the 26th September. We're away to
Ross County.
I thought it was Ross County at home.
That's what I said, Ross County.
No, you didn't say St Mirren.
St Mirren, bud.
Did I? Sorry, Ross County, yeah.
Scan the motor and get down boot his boys. That's about 3 times he's actually made a heavy balls up the night.
Get your hair on your eyes,
on the 3rd.
That's hair in his eyes.
We're home to Dundee. We're away to Livingston on the 23rd, and we're away to. We've only 3 home games of the first 7 fixtures, and you're talking about the supercomputer working fair. Tough games there as well, isn't it?
I don't buy into all that.
No,
I really don't.
But Paul, it's going to mean they're going to have more games at home.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying in the second part of the season. Yeah, exactly.
I know, but people, I've seen people and they've argued this point, and they argued it every year. Well, like Celtic won the title 11 of the last 12 years or something like that. So, like, I understand people get slightly paranoid about it.
But fought to get the hard away games out of the way, Terence.
Oh yeah, I do too. But Paul, if you look at it, it's about 6, 7, maybe about 7 or 8 games into it. Celtic are away to, I think it's Hibs and then Hearts. I think that's what it is. But then, and obviously, the Rangers are at home. But then another few games later, Celtic have 2 home games. And Rangers are away from 2 home games, or away in 2 games. And their 2 away games or something like Livingston and some. I just had a quick gander just out of curiosity. They're like, I think, Livingston and Aberdeen. So, like, I mean, if Celtic are only at home 3 times in the first 7 or 8 games and they're away 5 times, that's getting 5 of their potentially 19 away games out of the way. So they are going to have to play 19 games at home and 19 games away.
Aye.
So if they played 5 of them in the first 8, that means there's 14 games left, and that's including the split. So, I understand your point. Look, Paul, this Celtic squad are so strong. Would you fear them going anywhere? Any of these teams? Most of these teams won't even attempt to play football against Celtic. They just won't.
Like that's the one thing doubt I have about Rodgers is these teams sitting back, because Rodgers always struggled against Livingston. You know what I mean? And I hope he knows that as well, that he changed something there to beat these teams, Mark, that sit back and not pass the ball 10, 20 times on the halfway line. You remember that? You know?
Aye.
You know?
But who knows? Do you know what I mean? You said, Paul, he's learnt to tweak his tactics in that way. He's at Leicester, sir. He'll know what to do. I seen him talking even about a couple of players that he brought in at Leicester. I think was it Teddy he was even talking about it, said he could do things to unlock all these kind of defences and stuff like that.
Yeah, he brought in players to do that, yeah, he did.
Well, let's not be kidding, Paul. Ange ended up doing the same kind of tactics as Rodgers.
He did, yeah. Plenty of times, Mark, there. We were saying it was kind of
tippy passing about the opposition 18-year box and not getting anywhere.
But I said then as well, Mark, was that more the players than at the time when it was Ange? Do you know what I mean? Ange came out and kind of slated that then, like, you know what I mean? That he didn't. It was too slow in the tempo. We held the ball too much and stuff like that. You know, like seeing as this is Rodgers' second stint now, all right. And a new manager always gets leeway. Does Rodgers get leeway? I respecting all guns blazing Rodgers. We expect to win the treble.
I don't see why no.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. I
don't see why the treble. It's got to be realistic, as I said. We're that far in front of everybody else in Scotland, so the treble has got to be that aim. That's got to be Celtic's aim every season, Paul.
No matter who the manager is, Mark.
Aye.
I think the league is a priority.
Oh,
the problem is anything can happen in a cup match. That's the biggest thing. Anything can happen in a cup match. If Celtic were drawn away, for argument's sake, to Aberdeen or St. Johnstone, you could just get that. You should just get that bad day in the office and they could lose. But for me, the league and Europe are the priority. If they manage to win the treble, happy days. But would I rather Celtic win the league, have a good run in Europe, and maybe win a cup or win a treble? I'd rather Celtic win the league, have a good run in Europe, and win a cup. That's only my opinion.
No, I agree with you, Terry.
Because see, the thing about it is in Scotland terms, it's like,
I know if we don't win it, they might win it. I understand that.
I see, like down in England and stuff like that, they don't really, the FA Cup and the League Cup, most teams don't really bother their backside about it. It's good to win the FA Cup because of the history, but the League Cup, they treat it like a bit of a Diddy Cup. But that is the only thing up in Scotland. If Rangers went out a cup before us, I wouldn't care if we went out it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. But put it like this, Mark.
On the bigger picture, but you're saying in terms of playing in Europe, we couldn't.
Yeah.
We're playing in Europe on Wednesday in the latter stages of UEFA League or the Champions League. Do you know what I mean? Or we've got a cup game against St Mirren on the Saturday. Well, the priority's got to be the European game.
That's what I'm saying. Would you rather say, for argument's sake, Celtic win the league, Celtic won a cup, and we're in the quarter final of the Europa League, but we're beaten had a quarter final of the Europa League on the Thursday night, and for argument's sake, they won the first leg, and they lost the League Cup quarter final or the Scottish Cup quarter final on the Saturday or Sunday? Would it? Would you rather them win a quarter final of the Europa League or win the Scottish Cup? That's my opinion. I'd rather get a good run in Europa League or something like that. If they won a cup, great, but the league in Europe and maybe a cup, and I'd be over the moon.
Europe's got to be the aim. Progressing in Europe, don't get me wrong, there is probably going to be a couple of shared nights on the horizon. Mm-hmm. That's just part and parcel of supporting Celtic, I think, the way it is in Europe now. But I'm not going to hold Rodgers to it this season coming, but the following season, that should be. If he doesn't do anything in Europe, I think we need to even look at.
Exactly.
But I'd be very interested to see how because Paul mentioned it a number of times that he's varied the way he played and tactics and lineups and formations. I'd be very interested to see how he manages all that, as opposed to the last time where he went basically gung ho. I'd be very interested to see how he manages Europe this time round, and when he tweak things.
When he was with Leicester in the Conference League terms, at times he played 5 in the midfield. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he is.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Paul. That's what I'm saying. It's interesting to see him do that.
He should have learned. No, the opposition that you can't go gung ho against teams in Europe, no matter what the opposition is. You know what I mean? You change them slightly and stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean? You know.
Oh yeah, big time. And that's what something that is really going to interest me to see what way he does approach Europe in particular, and will he, if he's matches and he's had match the previous week and he plays a 4-4-2 or whatever system he plays, for argument's sake, and then all of a sudden he comes to a European match and it's a completely different format. I'd be looking at that going, yeah, he's been sensible. He's having two holding midfielders, or he's packing the midfield, and he's not going to be as brave away from home and all that. That's what I'd like to see from him. You know what I mean? Not this gung ho attitude that, if they score 3, we'll try score 4. Instead, we'll concede 6. Like,
exactly.
I think people always keep going on about this about if you pay a player X amount, other players are going to be upset and stuff like that.
Because they think they're working in a normal job.
Aye. Do you know, you go and sign a player, how many times do we go with this? You know what I mean? You go and sign a player that scores you 40 goals a season, and even in the Scottish League, then you go and sign a player that's going to be playing the backside of right back at you when your other right back's injured. They've not got anything to moan about. It's just where you're as a club, where you're as a team, and where players are.
Mm-hmm.
But Mark, that's currently happening now.
Right there, if the team are all united, why this upset? Would you be happy for the club to pay 100k a week for a player more than double Cal Mack's wages? What about the players at the Celtic who knew that Cal Mack's getting double their wages? How come they're not batting down the door and saying, how come he's getting paid that?
I was just going to say the same thing. Like Callum McGregor and Andy Ralston aren't getting paid the same. Like,
aye, so why is Ralston put that? No, how come Cal McGregor's getting paid more than me?
Because he's a better player.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Cal McGregor's a captain. He's a TikTok heart of the team. All right, no bother. What about that striker up front that's you're getting 60, 70 grand a week for? Well, he's banging in 40 goals a season. What are you doing?
Exactly.
Absolute nonsense that people think like that.
That's like me going into work, Mark, and going, sorry, you're running the striker here, right? How come you're getting paid that amount of money and my money getting paid this? Well, because you're in production and I'm a manager.
Aye.
There's a difference. I manage the company. We both work in the company, like.
Basically, you get paid what you're worth to the company.
Exactly, yeah.
Aye.
You know, I don't know. Madness. But how's ever?
That's it.
The thing about it, you go to any team, no matter whether it's even down to the likes of your Hamilton Ackies and that we did the teams like that, there's guys getting paid more money than other players. And that's just the way football works. And if our players don't like it, well, that's up to them to go and try and work hard enough to earn that same type of money. I don't honestly know why people keep going on about that. I really don't. Especially the way we've sort of spoke about for 2.5 years about how money's changed the face of football. I mean, Jota's going out to Saudi Arabia for 200 grand a week. Is he sitting there doing fucking arsehole Benzema's 197 million a year? I'm going into chat with on Monday for a pay rise.
Yeah, Ronaldo's on about $1 million a week or something like that. Like.
Aye, it's just, aye. And that's the thing about it.
Sure, look, it's happening in the Premier League. Like, you know what I mean? There are players on there, they're on 50 grand. There's players there, they're on 300 grand. You know what I mean? So,
but it happens at Celtic, Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're saying there, like Cal Mack, guys like McGregor, even James Forrest, right? What's James Forrest? James Forrest probably one of the highest earners at Celtic.
Yeah.
So should all these other players been beating down the manager's door saying, how come he's getting that money and I'm not getting that, and he's not playing games and he's getting this and he's getting that and shit like that? Exactly. All the manager, all the CEOs turn around and say, nothing to do with you. It's absolutely nothing to do with what anybody else in this club gets paid. You'll get paid what we want to give you. You don't like it, we'll transfer you.
Check his 20 trophies.
Aye.
That's why he's on that wage.
But who would be on more trophies? James Forrester or Callum Mack?
Say James Forrester, I'd say.
I think he is in maybe as far as maybe not about 21 trophies in Cal matches.
Something like that.
19 maybe.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
He'd be there. He'd have broke through Paul a couple of years, maybe 2 years, 3 years ahead of McGregor, I'd say. Something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but I'd say something like that.
Evening, you, Deef. Thanks for joining us, mate. You'd good, Deef. Saying, imagine a footballer had to work, really work. Guys dig girls for 40k a year. Any jobs gone, you, Deef? 40k a year for digging the roads. But just that's what it is. Every club, no matter where it is, what level of football it is, there's always a differentiating pay for players. Your better players get paid more money. Your star players get paid more money because they help the brand of the club. Your captain gets paid more money because he's the captain. I don't know.
It's in every walk of life, Mark. It's not just football. It's in every walk of life. As I said, the manager who runs my company gets paid a lot more because he's the manager. I get paid what I get paid because what I do. My manager on my line gets paid more than I do because he's the manager on my line. Simple as that. It's just that's just the way it is. We all work in the same place, but we don't all get paid the same.
I know, but people are a wee bit further up the ladder for you to earn, so get a bit more money than you because they're better at doing their job than.
Yeah, they're management people, but no one will ever have an issue with that.
And you go and sign a manager that's going to like your kind of level of company terms is going to make your company £1 million a year. He's worth getting paid more than you. So if you're buying a player, if you're going to buy a player like your star man, he's going to guarantee you 30, 40 goals a year. He's entitled to be the best paid player in the club.
Exactly. And that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Right. I say we let it there, Real, on that note. 9 o'clock. I ain't doing a 3.5 hour show again, to be honest.
And so because we're talking about wages here, Paul shot the nest.
Yeah, I wasn't declaring my wages there. Yeah, I wasn't declaring my wages there. Yeah,
you'll be able to Saudi Arabia next year, Slim Fast in a suitcase. Tax-free Slim Fast.
That'd be illegal over there, by that's what would buy. I'd be putting on.
Get them to snort it. just put it in wee baggies, Paul, and get them to snort it.
We're going after a sale that over in Saudi Arabia by selling the ballcards to the players. That's like I make a fortune out of them. That's it for tonight, lads. Thanks for Terence for joining again, and you guys in the live chat. Mark will close the show.
Right. Thanks very much, Paul. Thanks again, Terence, for coming on. Everybody that's been in the live chat, thanks very much for joining us. If you listen back, we really appreciate it. Everyone listening back, all the support we get. If you know how, hit the like button, leave a comment. If you've not, please subscribe. And remember, the link to our forum and everything's in the subscription box. You're all more than welcome on the forum to talk absolute rubbish about Celtic. Hail, hail, good night. God bless, lads.
To go there, like I'm Boston by straight away in Boston.
I've pushed again. I've been away to the toilet again.
Well, at least in fairness, at least you waited till the podcast ended to say that. The last time you were there, going, I'm bursting, and the thing was still live.